right, everybody, it's another Cleveland Moto podcast. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, that was a effervescent out.
Yes.
Nice, man. Very nice.
Anybody want some delirium?
Delirium, yeah, please do. If you don't mind hooking me up, that would be wonderful. Fantastic.
Oh, wow, that's bubbly. Sorry. I'll get more
Well, it's okay. We'll let that calm down a little bit. So episode number 290, guys, 290. We had a lot of really good feedback from people who liked our outdoor ambiance of the West Park of Cleveland.
So it's not a crackle cast. It's a
crackhead class. Crackhead cast. No, it's not. I mean, we joke all the time, but we're not in a bad neighborhood. The West Park.
Pappada cast.
Yeah, bubbada. But this is, so in the Cleveland neighborhoods, the neighborhood that we're in is called Camps Corners or West Park. So West Park would be a little bit east of here. We're kind of on the border between Camps Corners and West Park, literally right where our shop is. And this is considered to be the motorcycle center of Cleveland. We've historically had motorcycle dealerships in this part of town, going back many, many years. Harley, Honda, they've all been represented here or within a mile or two of here. And even the big corporate players like Rock and Roll Harley Davidson, they're just a mile or two down the road, literally in our neighborhood. So it is an interesting thing to be here where we are. Smedley's has historically been, we talk about Smedley's all the time. Smedley's is a biker bar. There's no better way to put it. And just to kind of give you guys, now last week our podcast was on a Friday night. We're doing it on Thursday, so it shouldn't be as rowdy today as it normally is. Although earlier, before we set up, I'm going to say it was at least 15 or 20 Harleys and at least
drag racing.
A bunch of them are drag racing, like straight up drag racing. So we've set the camera up pointing towards the street now because maybe we'll catch some of that loveliness.
Right. Because as you said earlier, the quarter mile is open.
The quarter mile is clearly fucking open. And it is hilarious because they're leaving that light. So that light is the first light from Smedley's, and it's in the same block as Smedley's. And then if they catch that light, they got to hustle to make that light, right? Mm-hmm. So that literally puts them at you might as well be staging at that point. So they have put on a display of power. And then across the street from us, we have Dunkin Donuts, which they may show up in the camera shot too.
Yeah, right.
But we do have this gaggle of crusty old guys that just hang out at Dunkin Donuts. They hold court over there. I've been introduced to the people that hold court there. That is their hang.
Yeah, they get closes and nobody kicks them out.
No, they'll stay there. Yep. And now Dunkin used to be open all night long, and these cats would stay there until the wee hours in the morning. That's their official hang.
They put us to shame sometimes.
They do. They absolutely. I've left here many times, and they were still going strong at the Dunkin Donuts old white man meeting.
Well, they're running on Dunkin'. We're running on beer.
Yeah, that's right. And they're running on free coffee. The first one you got to pay for, and apparently the refills are free, I guess. That'll keep the old men coming around.
That is good.
So the Tremens?
Yeah. What is it? Delirium Tremens. Delirium.
That's also like 10% alcohol too.
8.5.
That is delicious. That's very drinkable. Yeah, very drinkable.
Also like the bottle.
Very cool. And to my left is
Dan Kromke.
And Dan, I understand that you got you were running an old bike today.
At least my 76 BMW.
Yeah, absolutely. And then did you wake up the C5? The CS? I'm sorry.
CS5.
The CS5.
Oh, CS5. Yeah, I started that for the first time today. It started up no problem. I had one aborted attempt. Seemed like it didn't want to go. I checked everything over again, tried it again. It started right up and ran pretty good.
Fantastic. Good. A running bike is a good thing.
You mentioned you had to sort through some fuel leaks and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of, the clamps I used on the carburetor weren't sufficient, but I'll take care of that.
And so you were just using those negative spring clamps, right?
Right.
The ones you pinch them, slide them on, and let them go.
Right. That's what the bike originally had on.
Yep. And that's what we see on so many bikes as factory clamps because they cost nothing, right? I mean, it is the cheapest way to hold a piece of rubber on a nipple, right? That is it. Because there's no moving parts to it. It's just cheap. And if you can manage to find yourself a decent set of those crimpers, and that's what we use here at the shop. And I understand it's one and done. It's not adjustable. But using those now that we've switched to those at the shop, it gives a full 360-degree equal pressure on what you're clamping. And yeah, you're going to be clamping them on. They're literally crimped on, but they work, man. Those Hogs Ring pliers really put a bite on it. And yeah, you got to cut them off. But it is a really good way for when we do bikes. It's kind of an anti-tamper thing. So when we put them on a rack of carbs, and we've done 4 of those, if you're gonna try to get in there and jerry rig it yourself, we're gonna know about it. It's not gonna be any news for us that you fucked your shit up. So
there'll be no pulling a fuel line off on the side of the road.
No, there won't be. Yeah, you'll be cutting that shit off. So are you thinking about going to a worm clamp kind of thing, or are you thinking
I'm
about?
not really sure yet. I was looking at some stronger spring clamps, and I think the real problem is the shitty fuel line that I used on it.
I say buy the better fuel line and maybe one size smaller.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I like fuel line that you have to stick a set of needle nose in it and stretch it out a little bit before you can get it to go on there.
In the building right here, we carry about 8 different sizes of fuel line. And we don't just do the standard 4 sizes that everyone carries. We carry a lot of different stuff too. And then if you want to, you can go to Tygon, which is a very, very flexible. So Tygon fuel lines are resistant to any kind of ethanol, and they're resistant to just about everything. And what's nice about it is it stretches. It
that's
gives you about 10%.
Because I bought 10 feet of Tygon to try to use it.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the Tygon tubing, and I'm like, well, this one says it's completely impermeable to like anything.
Right.
So I ordered that. It's really, really stiff. It does. Once you flex it a little bit, it'll
fold over on itself.
That sounds like it's old.
They do make a thing.
It's not that one. I've seen the Tygon you're talking about. There's some, and that's what I thought it was going to be. That super flexible, easy to work with.
Yeah, but it is tight. Like a lot of times, you have to get a heat gun and kind of heat it to put it on a nipple or something.
Yeah. The other little tip is they make 90-degree fuel filters. So I don't know if you're running fuel filters or not. Yeah. But you can use a 90-degree fuel filter where at a place where it has to bend, you just put a fuel filter there to get a nice.
And the way this bike is set up, it's kind of strange. I need actually one straight fuel filter and one 90-degree fuel filter.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's what we do at the shop all the time. We find that putting a 90-degree fuel filter in there saves us a lot of banana, and it saves us a lot of fucking around. By just all of a sudden, you got the fuel going right where you need it to do. Because obviously, with fuel line, what you want to avoid is these hills and valleys, because you'll get air bubbles trapped in there. So if you can avoid that, that's
my
great.
preference when I run fuel lines. I like them to be traps. So I like them to go down and come up into the thing. So I've got a sediment trap, and it just seems. And there have been times when you look at your fuel line, you're like, oh, look at all that shit. Just pull it up, dump it out on the ground.
That's a good idea, man.
It's a great idea.
It's like a sink.
Right. Like a silly straw.
If you, I always go for too much fuel line off the bat.
Right.
I waste a little. I'm like, I'll route a big thing, and if I have to curl it around and put it on, and then let it,
let it sag. It's fine. Yeah, if you've got a good solid fuel supply, it shouldn't be an issue. The only time it's a problem is when you've got an interrupted fuel supply or a Vespa. Yeah, or a Vespa. Well, and I guess we should bring that up because with Vespa owners, if you've got a P series scooter, you're allowed to have 21 inches of fuel line, not 19, not 24. If you have more than 21 inches of fuel line, you will get a fuel flow problem to your carburetor.
Really?
Yeah. So when you see guys that are putting it in at the shop on our pegboard, I had drawn out the length of fuel line, drawn it out as fuel line, just so you could take it off the roll and just cut it right at that spot. And so you always had the right length of fuel line.
Is that just because the vacuum of the carb wasn't enough?
There's what, vacuum?
Or, well, not vacuum, but
it is literally a 24 millimeter orifice with air passing through it.
Oh, that's
The problem is
virtually no gravity.
With the Vespa, the carburetor is sitting on top of the motor.
Yeah.
And the tank is sitting down
next
underneath
to the carburetor.
Seat. So they're literally, if you look at the bottom of the tank in that carburetor, there's almost no
flow.
Maybe with a full tank you have some head rate, but once you get down, it's just like, and so that fuel line can't, if you have too long, it goes up. It has to be just, it has to curve right around and come right into that carb and have just the right slope. So
that makes sense. It makes sense.
Right. Yeah. And it is one of those things that you have to have the exact right length because as we all say, like, oh, I'll put an extra 4 inches of line in there. So if I have to cut some off and use it like as a roadside repair. Now, this is one time you can't do it.
Something I noticed on this Yamaha is that where the fuel filters are, the lines are filling with fuel below the filter, but not above the filter.
Yeah. And that's that whole liquid seeking its own level kind of thing. And I've had a lot of bikes where in a situation where I've had to tap the air bubbles out just because there wasn't enough head pressure to bypass that and move those air bubbles along.
And unfortunately, when I do that, it breaks the seal and lets some more air in.
God damn it. Oh, you're fighting. Yeah, that sucks. So that is one of those things that it is, your fuel lines can absolutely be an issue. So Daniel, and to his left,
Johnny Mac.
Thank you for showing up today. And I mean, we're 4 today. There's 4 of us.
A quartet.
Yeah. So our other podcasters all have obligations. They all have things going on.
I didn't ride anything today. I was, I had all these big plans at work. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go home and I'm going to try to go. And well, the Super Hawk needs a battery put in it. Maybe I should do that. And then I even had a discussion with them like, well, should I go get the Super Hawk? Should I go do this? Should I get the Ascot? And then I'm looking at the time and I'm looking at what it would take me to get a bike out to go, drive 2 blocks to grandma's house, get the bike out, get it up and running, and then ride 4 blocks to the shop. And well,
yeah,
I drove.
You drove. It was the time.
And I was able to bring my 6-pack of beer and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah.
I did get a new Honda this week though.
So what did you get? You got a Honda.
I got the
what color is it?
It's red and silver.
Red and silver.
You've been looking for
you got an
one
RC.
For a while.
No, I got an HR.
Honda Racing.
No, Honda Racing 214.
Honda Racing 214. Is that the 6-cylinder?
Single cylinder.
Oh, it's a single cylinder.
Single cylinder 214.
2 valves?
Off-road?
It's a 2-valve.
2-valve?
Overhead cam.
Oh,
overhead valve.
Off-road?
Off-road only.
Okay.
Off-road only. So not for street use at all.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
It's going to need a new tire.
It's the kind of thing you could have without a title, right?
No title.
No title.
It's strictly off-road.
Okay. All right.
It's not a bagger. Well,
no,
it
it's
could
not
be
a
bagger. I don't have a bagger.
You don't have the bagger option?
I don't have the bagger.
You don't have the bagger option. Yeah. And kickstart? No.
Pull.
Recoil start.
Yeah, it's a recoil start. Yeah, it's a recoil. It's solid recoil start.
Yeah, that's good. It's good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Runs like a top.
Yeah, of course it does.
And where did you get it?
Dude was throwing it out. It was on the tree lawn.
Is it a 20-inch cut?
21.
21. Extra inch. The extra inch.
21.
Yeah, that's it. The
Self-propelled.
Oh, is this self-propelled?
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit,
Where?
that's fancy.
I didn't see it on the deck. Is it underneath the deck or something?
You just hit the thing. It also has so this is the Honda, so it's super safe and everything. It's got the blade clutch. So this is a mower if you haven't figured it out. It was one of my lifelong dreams is to get a Honda mower.
Right.
So I won't buy one.
You've been pining for a Honda mower for a long time.
Yeah, I've been through 20 different curb pick mowers in my life. They come and go, but finally I driving along and look on the tree lawn, I'm like, motherfucker, somebody's throwing out a Honda. And I have a feeling it was the renter throwing out like the house Honda or whatever,
Right.
I'm like, I don't know. But I pulled over and the guy was coming out of the house. I'm like, are you throwing that out? Yeah, you want to take it? I'm like, okay. He's like, can I help you load it? I'm like, no, I got this. I'm like, no problem, man.
I'm not going to give you any chance to change your mind.
But I took it home and dumped the gas out of it, put some fresh gas in it, started 2 pulls, started right up.
Nice.
Let it run for a while. It was a little sloggy, but then it started working. I might have to clean the car, but I mowed my yard with it once already.
Good.
I'm usually not a person that believes in spray fixes.
Mm-hmm.
The Blaster makes a small engine repair, and it's really good at cleaning carbs out. Like if you just
I have some of that stuff. It's the green label stuff.
So it's Blaster small engine repair.
Yeah. And
PB Blaster.
I'm always suspicious of anything that says repair.
Well, they
that
call
comes
it
in
that.
a can.
They call it that, but I mean, like
mechanic in a can.
It like if you have a little bit of if your bike's been in the garage for 5 years with old gas, it's not going to help you. If it's 1 season old and it has a bit of varnish on it, it seems to clear it pretty well out. Now, believe me, you won't have a mosquito for 13 years after you use this stuff. Oh, yeah. Because it's like you sprayed into the carb and it's just plumes of white death smoke.
Yeah, nice. That's good.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, too. I did give it a couple blasts of carb cleaner. I took the air cleaner off and hit it like that, let it soak in a little bit and everything. That's what I initially started it. The guy said it wouldn't start. I'm like, this will start.
Yeah.
And I wanted to find out a lot of times the death knell for some of those mowers is they hit a stump and it bent the crankshaft and it'll run and it's like it's a vibratory mixer. But no, it ran and fired up pretty good and everything. I even had Piper started. She's like, "Oh wow, that started up a lot faster."
Starts real easy, absolutely.
You can start mowing.
Years ago, Merritt's dad had bought us as a gift some landscaping. Like guys come out and mow the lawn, right? I was like, this is great. And so they bought us the landscaping, and I had 2 mowers. I had like a regular MTD kind of mower, and then I had a Honda mower that I, through the use of strategic trading, and it was the same. It was push only, no self-propulsion, but silver and red Honda mower.
Aluminum. This has the aluminum deck,
right?
Chrome handle, chrome cover on the exhaust. Like it's the one I wanted, the SX214.
And I was really, really excited about having a Honda mower and mowed my own lawn with it for several years. And then we got that landscaping thing and I was like, oh, this is great. I don't have to fuck around. And I'm going down my street and I see this young couple that moved into one of the houses on my street. And they're out there with the world's worst reel mower. Like, you know, a real, proper reel mower. And it's just, you can tell it's just kicking 100% of this
saving
guy's
the
ass.
environment in the hard way.
Yeah. So I told the guy, I was like, look, tell you what you want to do. Go in my shed. In my shed, there's 2 lawnmowers. There's a silver mower and there's a red mower. The red mower is an MTD. Starts first pull every single time. You can have it. It's yours. You own it now. It's your mower. I got the Honda now. I'm not using the MTD. It's yours. Take it. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, it's a free mower. Just let yourself into my shed. Take it. Neighborhood's fine, right? So I assume that all happened. So I don't even think about it. I don't have to go in my shed anymore. We got people that show up and mow the lawn. I'm so bougie, it's ridiculous. And we don't think anything of it. And then that all peters out after a couple of months. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to mow my own lawn again. I go out to the shed, open it up, and there's the fucking MTD sitting there. The son of a bitch took my Honda.
He cherry-picked the Honda?
He cherry-picked the Honda, and then he had the balls to move. So the Honda went with him.
Oh, I was going to say, I'd march right over to that fucker's house.
I'd tear his garage door down. Yeah. But yeah, he took my Honda and he fucked off. So it was like, apparently
he's like, the door, it's all MTD, Honda.
He took the Honda. Yep, you got it. So I lost my Honda. Still got the MTD though, and it does still run like a fucking champion.
Oh, I've got quite the collection. I've got a Toro commercial with a
all
deck.
And to your left,
Steve Sleepy.
Steve.
My grandfather lived with me when I was growing up.
Yeah.
He was like old. He was born in 1904, died, whatever, but like, he was old. And he used to babysit me when I was like 8 and 7 when my mom and dad would go somewhere.
Yeah.
So we had a broken mower. And so his thing was he took the motor off.
Yeah.
And he would set me on it with a pair of scissors to put down through the hole. And he would push me around. I know he was just fucking around, but it was still
silly. Yeah, he was being silly.
I remember that very vividly. Like it was kind of a cool thing.
Yeah. I remember years ago we watched our neighbor on the one side try to cut his yard with the weed whacker. Like he couldn't get the mower started. He just tried and tried and tried. He gave up on it and he went out and cut the yard with the weed whacker. And I went over and I was like, God damn it. Pulled the spark plug out of the mower, cleaned the spark plug, cleaned the carb real quick, threw it back together, first pull. He's like, you didn't have to do that. It's like, yeah, I had to do that. I had to do that. I could not watch you. And you know, I mean, he probably went through 97 feet of line.
Right.
Just, you know, every 10 seconds.
What did the yard look like afterwards?
Oh, it looked like my haircut. It was a fucking train wreck, man. It was a mess. So yeah, hot mess.
Well, I fix everybody's stuff on my block, and it's like the neighbor is like, "Hey, can you take my mower out?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem. Bring it on." He keeps his yard really nice. And I'm like, "Did you hit anything with it?"
Probably just need to like attach a wheel to the back of the weed whacker so it stays at a certain level and you can just go along.
If only it had like a deck and like 4 wheels that were adjustable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, then it would be
they have Bruce has one of those. It's a big weed whacker with metal lines on it. It's a lawnmower, like a regular lawnmower with a head,
right?
Yeah. And it's like a brush hog. I mean, they make them, but you know.
I've seen the DR mower advertisements on television.
Yeah,
goes anywhere, mows anything.
No, it doesn't so much.
Yeah, exactly. God, man.
I was fixing my neighbors. I'm like, "Did you hit anything with it?" Nope, didn't hit anything with it.
Yeah.
So I take it over. I pull the plug out. Nothing. I shoot a little ether in it. Put the plug back in. Give it one pull. Boom! Pulls it right out of my hand. I'm like, motherfucker, you're lying.
You are lying.
You spun those flywheel on this, and it's like, I'm like, I'll give it another go. And sure enough, I gave it another go, and it started. And he's like, I took it back to him. I'm like, does it always fucking do that? He's like, yeah, it's been doing that for a long time. I'm like, you know, your key was broken.
Yeah,
and
your Woodruff Key. Yeah.
Oh,
So in every motor in the world, there's a crankshaft. And then where it interfaces with the flywheel, which usually has the electrical components in what tell the motor when to spark and how to generate electricity and everything. Well, there's a Woodruff key, and the Woodruff key is basically a nickel cut into like 4 pieces. And so it's a nickel cut into 4 pieces, and the Woodruff key is there to keep everything lined up. Pro tip for you. The Woodruff key doesn't actually hold anything. It's just for location. The taper holds everything. Mm-hmm. So if your taper has been smeared or, you know, welded on or rusty, you're done. You're done. Game over. So before you do anything, take light sandpaper to the taper, clean it up, put anything you want resembling a Woodruff Key in there. If you don't have the nickel to buy a Woodruff Key, because they have them everywhere, when you drop the flywheel on, it will magnetically want to go to like a certain indexing spot. So make sure you've got everything lined up really well when you drop it on, and then test it before you tighten the fuck out of the bolt on the end of the crank. Because that thing is just like begging to break. And if you're not tightened down, if you're not socked down, having tons of force on the taper and the flywheel, then
it's a compression fit.
It's a compression fit. The Woodruff Key doesn't hold shit. The Woodruff Key does not have a torque rating. And once it starts to go, that Woodruff Key will smear the shit out of your crank. And your crank will end up with a big old gouge out of it. And then forget ever having that lined up ever again. So yeah, it's an important thing to definitely have the clean interface between the crank taper.
Well, the Hail Mary is
flywheel.
You take it back off, you clean it up as much as you can, then you put a little piece of sandpaper around that and put it back on.
Spin it.
And the grit from the sandpaper crunches into the taper and into the thing, and that'll hold it.
And that will fucking hold it. We've seen more failures where people have put the flywheel onto a bike and they've just either not meat hogged it on. You know, the trick is read the manual. If it says you need 32 foot-pounds of torque, you need 32 foot-pounds of torque. If it's not holding at 32 foot-pounds of torque, you've got a bad taper. The taper's smeared or the Woodruff Key's smeared. Something's not lining up right. So,
and when you're taking that flywheel off, it's not okay to hit the end of the crankshaft with a ball peen hammer.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus. Yeah. And that's the other thing too. If you have a flywheel on any motorcycle and you need to remove that flywheel and you don't have the flywheel puller, I fucking hate you, because flywheel pullers are not expensive, and they make flywheel pullers for every bike and every configuration.
You can order one and have it the next couple of days on Amazon or anywhere else.
But if you don't have one and you attack this thing with like 14 long-handled screwdrivers and a 3-jaw pulley and all this other, a harmonic balancer puller and a steering wheel remover and all this different crap, all you're going to do is knock shit to fuck. I mean, I've seen more damage done with one of those Harbor Freight 3-jaw pullers. He says like, oh, I got a 3-jaw puller, I can do anything. No, all you can do is fuck shit up with that. Like, yeah, they're great for pulling off literally a wheel on the end of a V8 motor. It'll pull that off fine, but it will not pull a flywheel off of a motorcycle.
If you do have to tap on the crank a little bit for some reason, I'll do it with mowers and stuff, but put the nut on there.
Right.
And hit the nut.
Yeah,
so that protects the threads.
Right. Yeah, protecting the threads on the end of a crank. We had a dude today. We got time for the Harley. And Harley. What Harley?
Ape hangers.
I like having the LED lights up on the top of the ape hangers. That's kind of cool.
That was all right.
Your plow lights. Yeah, those are the plow lights.
The plow lights, exactly. Like the mantis eyes on my old plow. You can see where you're going. Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, we've seen that shit, and we've seen people hammer flywheels off, like get a screwdriver in like a wedge and just hammer it. Hammering on a magnetic device is never a good idea.
Well,
you can shock the magnets right out.
My most epic flywheel thing happened last winter, helping my buddy with his snowmobile. And that was cutting the flywheel off was a lot of fun.
Oh my God.
I mean, we tried everything, every level of force.
Couldn't get this flywheel
fucking
off.
Just smash it away. Like this was destroyed pullers, destroyed everything. This was not coming off.
This flywheel was not coming off.
And it was like, well, made a little triangle with my die grinder. Got the thing off till you just had this. Yeah. And then just took the grinder and went down the one side until you got just to the crank until
you just got to the threads.
Got to the tape, literally ground the way
to the taper.
To the taper.
Holy shit.
Once you got it all the way there, and then boom, it came off.
That thing did not want to come off.
But we got it off. We ordered a new one and put it on.
We've had a couple of bikes come in with flywheels welded on. I mean, we've seen it. A guy will get frustrated, what usually happens is a guy will put a flywheel on and he won't have it leveled out just right. He won't have it lined up just right. And so he'll put the nut on and he'll be like, and then and you're like, oh, you dipshit. Because, yeah, you can spin one of those things at like 40 foot-pounds of torque. Mm-hmm. And once you do, it's gone. It ain't never coming back, pal. Well, remember, that's your fucking crankshaft. So guess where the crankshaft is? In the middle of all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
It's the center of your motor. There is no quick, rapid crankshaft replacement in our motors.
I got a little bit lucky. Like you dummy the threads on the end of a crank, and you might be able to get a good set of dies and put a new thread on it, another bolt nut and everything. But
that is truly lucky.
Yeah.
But I've seen more than my fair share of ones that were welded on. And usually when I see that at the end of a motor, and I'm like, yeah, dude, no. Get your shit out.
Because now you got to grind all that off to even get it apart. You know,
well,
you're not getting the crank out without getting.
You're not getting the crank out without. Yeah, exactly. You're gonna have to grind everything off. You're gonna cut everything off. It's gonna be a 14-hour job. Speaking of 14-hour jobs, okay, guys, listen to Unkie Phil. I'm gonna give you some really, really good information right now. Every motorcycle dealership in America is slammed to the fucking gills right now. We are all overloaded. We have turned away probably 25 bikes this week.
It's a bike NATO.
It is a bike NATO. You could set yourself up right now if you're a halfway decent motorcycle mechanic hack. You could say, oh, this guy's going to pull in like we're fucking open. Oh, my open sign's still on. Hold on. I'm going to go shut that off.
All right. So Phil's going to shut the open sign off. And this guy's continuing to pull in. John, I think he's going to ask a question here to you. I think somebody's I'm just saying.
So anyway, but it is bike NATO, and one of the things that Phil was talking about is his sales are up by like 300% over last year. Yeah. So it's all hands on deck to get bikes in, get them prepped, and it's just been ridiculous.
It's been incredible. It's been insane. And then the service department has been, because of the coronavirus, and people going, well, I can't go to vacation. I can't go to Vegas. I can't do all the things I want to do. I'm going to buy a motorcycle. And guys go to motorcycle dealerships and they realize that I just, for the sake of it, I checked our local Honda guy. They have got very few bikes on the floor. Forget it if you want a Grom. There are no Groms. You cannot have a Grom.
The situation is very grim for getting a Grom.
It's grim for Groms.
But this also applies. My mom's refrigerator broke.
Yeah.
And we went refrigerator shopping. Nobody has appliances in stock
either,
because all the places that make them are in China and they've been closed for 4 months.
60 days.
Yeah, Peggy we ordered a refrigerator and a dishwasher.
Right.
And it took a month and a half. And now there's
holy shit. So it's everything, right?
It's everything. And if you're selling a used anything, it's fucking insane.
Yeah.
I sold a 4-wheeler this weekend. I had 29 messages in 12 hours. And 4 of them where I have cash, I will pick it up tomorrow. And a guy finally offered me $100 over what I was asking.
Over what you were asking to get the bike.
To get the bike.
Wow, man.
And he showed up and it's gone. I mean, it was insane.
And so that's the market. Like that's the volatility of the market right now. If you wanted to start up, if you were one half of a motorcycle mechanic, you can go to your local shop and tell your local shop, I'm one half of a motorcycle mechanic. I will give my name and number to anybody you refuse. Mm-hmm. And then let them come to me, and then I can refuse them again if I feel like I'm in over my head.
Right.
Because we are turning away easily 50% of the bikes that come in. Wow. And the vast majority of stuff is like we talked about last week. I'm selling my bike. And if you look over across the street in the back of my truck, there's an orange Buddy back there. Mm-hmm. There's an orange Buddy in the back of that truck that has 900 miles on it, but it is literally being sold by party A, being purchased by party B. I went and picked it up. It's here now. And party B has agreed to pay whatever it will cost to get it running after they gave party A a certain undisclosed amount of money. Well, dude, that's crazy. I mean, that's insane. If you get yourself into that kind of a deal, I don't know who you're literally trusting us to be incredibly honest with this job, because if I come back and tell you that it's got a bent crank in it, which we've seen 3 blown up Buddy motors this month, so because there's no oil in them, it's not like the Buddy decided to die, it's somebody murdered it, but in this case, yeah, if I call you and be like, yeah, I don't know what you paid for this, but it needs $1,200 worth of work.
I think there's something to be said about used buddies too, being careful about buying them and making sure.
Check that out.
You know a little something about it.
76 Cadillac.
Yeah, with the whatever's going on.
Yeah.
But
195 horsepower.
I think I think a few ponies have escaped in that one.
Oh, yeah.
I think that might be about 47 horsepower.
Yeah.
But buddies tend to be a lot of people's first scooters, and just like you're saying, they don't do jack shit to them. They just drive them until they don't drive anymore.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, they said it was
like
a great,
there's a bunch of pennies
bike.
in the bottom of my motor. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, they said it was a reliable bike. They said I could ride it all I wanted to. Yeah. And like that lady that was here last week, 7,900 miles in 6 years. No oil changes.
Dude, I just had my friend, I'm not going to say his name, but a buddy of mine, he owns a restaurant in Cleveland Heights.
Yeah.
And he has a buddy and he brought it over and he said, hey, can you change the belt for me? And I'm like, yeah, I probably can if you get the parts, whatever.
Yeah.
So he brings it. It's making all kinds of noise. I'm like, when did you change the oil? He goes, they take oil? He goes, I just put gas in it. It has 10,650 miles on it.
On the oil that came from the factory.
Probably.
Oh, ouch. Well, there you go, man.
And he rides two up all the time, too, with his wife.
And I mean, small motors do consume oil if you drive them fast. So that's just part of it. That's part of life, I guess. Wow.
At 10,000 RPMs, you're vaporizing some oil.
Yeah, you're going to lose some oil. We have Scott Schaefer from our Patreon listeners. He asks us a question. He says, he's from Canada. He said, I'll jump in my canoe with a beaver pelt and some maple syrup and paddle across Lake Erie. See you soon, I think. Thanks for the best motorcycle podcast out there. Oh, by the way, what tires is Sleepy running on his Super T? I ordered a 2020 Super T pre-COVID, and I got it in mid-April. I've managed to put 5,500 kilometers on it, or in red, white, and blue speak, 3,400 miles. So, yeah, 3,400 miles on his bike he just got in April. That's great. And he wants to know, what kind of tires do you like?
Tractionator GPS right now.
Yeah.
They're really good. Guys are getting 10,000 miles out of them. They handle well. I rode with the 555 triple nickel on them. Everywhere I've been off road, me and Dan went down the fire roads and stuff. Oh, did you just?
I just did that.
You just bearded your computer.
Bearded my computer.
It needed it. It was dry.
I saw the way it was looking at me.
Hurry up, run down to Mark's and get a bag of rice.
It's still on. That's a good
10-pound bag.
It's
still on.
Yeah.
Keep it, plug it in. Don't let it cool.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
The fan will dry itself out.
But here's the thing I've kind of come to realize with these tires. You have to be realistic on what you're going to be riding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the whole thing.
Fortunately, the Tractionators are pretty good. They're a 60-40, 60 road, 40% off-road. Or if you wanted to, you can flip the back and it become 50-50. But if you're really going to be mostly riding road, don't be cool. Just get a set of road tires.
Get a set of road tires.
Whatever.
Right.
Like,
there's absolutely no reason that I can think of when I'm literally putting tires on a bike for a customer.
Yeah.
You know that for most of the street bikes, I tend to be like, oh yeah, TKC 80s, of course. Yeah. What are yes. TKC 80s, more TKC 80s. Mm-hmm. They're fun. I mean, they work good on street bikes, and they work great. Continentals are good tires.
You'll eat them though quick if you're just riding on the road.
Yeah, but it's not uncommon to see 5,000 miles out of those, which is
that's fine.
Which is fine.
And they handle great on fire roads and dirt. I mean, they're good.
They do work really, really well. But when it does come down to like you're going to have an adventure bike, most of the bikes we work on in here, they see 99.5% tarmac.
Right.
And then 0.5% something other than that.
Right.
And you could probably get away with using a street tire for that.
A lot of them use, I forget who makes them, but like a trail wing or some kind of a wing, something like that. Yeah. And those are like a 90-10.
Yeah.
And
weren't they calling those death wings at one point?
Yeah, the death wing. Because it's OEM for a lot of bikes. Like the KLR 650 has death wings on it. A few different bikes do that. And I've been through a few sets of them, and they're kind of.
But tires are getting out to the point, like if you go on forums and stuff, it's almost like oil discussions.
It is, right?
Because guys have so many opinions about.
It's a discussion I hate to get involved in.
I know it is. It's really hard.
And then sometimes a new player will come along, like Mitas or somebody, and then like everybody's like for a month, everybody's like, "Oh, you Mitas, you just got to get Mitas."
Or the Heidenau's.
Yeah. Like, and it's just like somebody at the marketing department from Heidenau just decided that for this month, everybody's got to get Heidenau's.
Yep.
And if you don't have Heidenau's, well, then you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, you're just not in the game right.
Yeah, and that's kind of been our experience here. Is we're not a big ADV shop, but we do see probably 20% of our bikes are ADV bikes.
They're popular around here.
They're very popular around here. And people do love the ADV stuff. But I don't think... We were just talking about it with the KLR that I got rid of. Yes, having like the Husky you gave me had Shinko on the back, right?
On the front too.
On the front, right. There goes that C5. That is a big bloke on a C5.
Yeah.
He's had that C5 for a number of years. Took the rear fenders off and stuff like that.
He's got no lights on it right now either.
Oh, you're right. He doesn't. He's got
maybe a headlight. Yeah, headlight.
Yeah, he's just got a headlight.
It's definitely sporterized.
Oh, it's had all the metal taken off of it.
Oh, best thing.
Yeah.
So I'll get into this later, but I have a new bike coming. But I was looking, and I happened to put the name of the bike and then cafe because I was looking maybe for a cafe fairing.
Okay, yeah.
But in eBay, the first thing that comes up when you put cafe in is brown seats, brown handles, and then they have pre-made bent 7/8 inch rings so you can cut the back of your bike off and just weld the...
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, so when you put cafe in, it's brown seats, brown handles, and tail loops.
Then literally a seat loop so you can take off the back of your motorcycle.
Right.
Cut it off. I'll be right back in a second.
So,
I'm going to go take care of this.
No problem.
Continue the podcast.
But yeah, I thought it was great. I was like, wow, really?
Yeah.
So like that's the first thing that comes up. So now the hipsters don't even have to bend their own little things. You can put in CB350 and they have a whole shit ton of like weld-in tail loops.
Well, one of the bikes I'd like to sell is I have a 72 CL350. I have right now, it has the low pipes on it, but they're wrapped low pipes with some aftermarket mufflers that I put on that are kind of incredibly loud but sound good.
Mm-hmm.
It ran and everything. I took it down to Mid-Ohio a year or two ago, and I got it running. It was running good on the left carb. The right carb's still fucking up a little bit. But I was able to get it running and ripped it around, did a smoky burnout and shit like that. The kids across the street were having a good time. They're like, oh, that was the best burnout of the whole weekend, And that was on the dirt road. I was just sitting there. And
it just got hot enough it burned it up.
Oh, I looked at the tire on it. It's like got grooves in it from the rocks and stuff that were embedded in the dirt road. But that bike's, that's just the gold and black one and everything, pretty decent. You can have either the black scrambler side panels that I painted up for it, or I have another set of the gold. You could go CB350 or CL350. I have both sets of pipes. I'm looking, if I could get like $1,000 out of that, I'd be happy. It's titled in my name.
Dude, there's going to be a lot of people asking about that.
It's not far from being a road-worthy bike. And I'll throw in a shitty set of, what are those, Trials tires or something? I had a set for that. It does have the handlebars. It has the cross member on the handlebar, so it's good,
Scrambler
fuck,
bars.
that thing's been sitting on my lift for like 2 years. I'm like, it just needs to go. I mean, I have a Super Hawk. I don't need two Honda, it doesn't feel a niche in my collection that I really need to have.
Which one, your Ascot?
I have a CL350.
Oh, a CL.
Yeah, gold, black. Kind of look like, it's honey, honey.
Yeah.
That I've had forever, and it's there. I've rebuilt the carbs like twice because I rebuilt the carbs, and then I had to push it outside, and then it rained with no air filters on it.
Oh, shit.
Filled the carbs up with water, and I let it sit, then I brought it back in, and I tried to get it started, and I'm like, oh, this ain't no good. Take them apart, and I'm like, oh, they're all fucked.
Yeah.
Cleaned them again, got it run, it's just been like this close so many times. That's the one that I had the motor out.
Exactly,
It's like, it's so close, but I just never have, just haven't had that day of my life where I could just spend a whole day and finish things.
He's got the LEDs.
Yep.
The long pipes, white wall tires. Yeah,
nice. The Ascot's on the chopping block too.
That's a Yamaha, by the way. That's not a Harley Davidson.
Right.
He did have the Telltale Yamaha taillight.
Well, speaking of Yamahas, I have a story that will lead to something that I'm going to ask you a question, and then this might help other people too.
I like the sound of that.
So speaking of Yamaha, so I sold my four-wheeler, and the deal with my wife is as long as I put a few bucks from whatever my toys I sell into the bills, I can use the rest of my bucks to retoy.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
So I had found my V-Star 1100.
I like to refer to that as buying the next investment.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
that's exactly what I was doing. But I found through a friend, a guy said, hey, your old V-Star 1100 for sale. It's got just 10,000 miles on it. Looks exactly.
Steve, you want to talk into the mic?
I am talking. But I will. Thank you. But, so like, I was like, all right. They're like, it looks like the day you sold it to the guy. And so I was like, my daughter's getting to the point, that might be kind of a low bike that she could put her feet on and ride with me. And I was like, yeah, okay.
So is it a little sissy bar on the back?
Yeah, a little sissy bar and all that. And the pegs are pretty high. So I called the guy. He's like, yeah, sounds great. Yeah, I'll call you too. Let me know if the quad's all okay, cool. And then he ghosted me and he won't call back. He won't do anything. Yeah. But everything happens for a reason. So then through Adventure Rider, I was talking to some guys and stuff like that. And I met a guy who collects Suzuki GSs. And he has, they're just ridiculously nice and everything. And he had another one, an 850G that he was going to sell. And then the price was literally Chinese scooter money.
Yeah.
And
that's about what they should be.
This dude, he replaced the brakes, the tires, the carbs are clean, brand new brake lines, brand new everything.
Well, the carbs aren't clean. They're orange.
Well, they're painted orange, yeah. But the rest of it's perfect.
It's a strange fashion choice.
It was. It wasn't his. It was he got it from the original owner who was 86.
Oh, well, that happens.
That happens.
Old men like to paint things.
Yeah. It's high vis orange too.
High vis orange.
So if you take it hunting,
but it matches.
Your carbs won't get shot.
You know why he did it? I realized why he did that.
Here we go.
It matches the G in GS 850G.
So he was tying into a little orange trim.
A little orange trim. Yeah. Happened to be his 4 carburetors.
That's what he decided to do. But I'm fine with that. I'll get to that.
If it runs like a raped ape, I don't care what color they are.
Right. And that's the thing. This guy's
a good motor too.
The guy's meticulous. It's shaft drive. It's got the world's most comfortable seat, apparently, in the history of the world. So here's my question that might help other people. So this is going to be the first bike. I've had other vintage bikes, but they weren't old enough when I had them. Yeah. So this is the first one I'm going to have that's over 25 years old.
Look at that. You got a slingshot. You put a convertible top on it. You got a roof on his slingshot.
Cabrio.
I'm going to be a real car someday, I promise.
But how does one go about getting a vintage plate?
Okay, so when you step into the world of vintage motorcycle ownership and you own a bike that's over 25 years old, which is honestly for us pretty normal. The vintage plate is great because it lasts until what year, John?
2050.
2050.
No matter when you buy it. So if you buy one this year or next year, it doesn't matter. They're all supposedly in Ohio expire.
Now, who knows what's going to happen in 2050? I don't know in our state, but
I'm not sure.
You'll have to buy a new one that's good till 20.
So the rules are you can ride the motorcycle, 2 motorcycle shows, 2 motorcycle events, 2 potential sale of the vehicle.
What about a Sunday drive?
Totally. Weekends are great. Weekends and holidays are totally on limits, including Friday. So that's all on book. What else, Daniel? Because I know you do you do a lot with this.
To work on it? You said work on it, parades.
The other restrictions? You can ride it after you service it, to test ride it. You can ride it to take it somewhere to be serviced.
Excellent.
And I work on my brakes every time before I ride it and have to make sure they're working. So
it's true.
And like I was big in the BJMC for a while, so I had a membership card.
Right.
I got pulled over one time. I whipped my card out and said I was just beating, just at a membership meeting. I rode the bike there.
Now, Daniel's got a particularly good trick that Daniel does. What's your deal? You use Facebook.
I have a Facebook page called Vintage Riders of Ohio Meetup. And when I'm going to ride and some of my friends are going to ride out with someplace with me, I create an event and we ride to.
It's hilarious because every once in a while I'll get a Facebook thing that says Daniel's doing a ride tonight.
Right.
And I'm like, what the fuck? It's Tuesday. Like, what? I didn't know about this impromptu get together of vintage motorcycles. He just wants to go ride his bike.
That's it.
But it's an event and it's documented as an event. So you can go ride all you want.
Well, the only thing I haven't put a vintage plate on is like my CB1 because it doesn't look like a vintage bike. It's, it's legal. You can put a plate on it. But it looks like a crotch rocket, and it's like, I don't know.
And my PC 800 is 1989, so of course it's well within the vintage rules. It's 30 years old plus 31 years old, and I had a vintage plate on it for every day I ran it. But it's all it's capped in plastic, fantastic. It's clearly to anybody who's not aware of what a PC 800 is, it's a modern bike.
Right.
In fact, maybe a little too modern. Hence the slow sales. But but it really was only pulled over one time on the bike, and the guy pulled me over, and he goes, I see you got a vintage plate on there. I said, I do. And he goes, is that a PC 800? And I said, it is a PC 800. And he goes, people really like those. And I said, yeah, there's a cult around this bike.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, it's Wednesday. And I said, yeah, I know. And he goes, well, are you supposed to be riding it on a Wednesday? One, law enforcement officers are not really well versed on the rules of historical plates.
5 months in the police academy does not make you a lawyer.
Right, exactly. So what I can tell you is the statement of, well, yes, I just worked on it. I'm dialing it in, or we're having a meeting tonight of our, anything that's, whatever. He's not going to do any research on it. He's going to cite or he's not going to cite you.
And what's the penalty?
Well, the penalty is misuse of plates. So in Ohio, we have an ORC, Ohio Revised Code, that is very similar to most states. In fact, Ohio didn't write its own laws. It kind of borrowed them from New York. And every state will have the misuse of plates law. And that just basically means you're using the plate for something other than what the plate was intended for. It's a catch-all. And it's usually a very, very low, like a minor misdemeanor. It's very minor. And if you can go into court and kind of, if you do get cited for that, I do strongly recommend that you go ahead and say, okay, yes, officer, that's great. Be super polite and be super kind and remind the officer, could you please in your notes put that I'm working on the bike, or I'm going to take pictures of the bike to sell the bike,
right? Or
I'm going to sell the bike, or I'm going to my buddy's house and we're going to work on the bike, right?
I wrote it to work because a guy at work wanted to look at it to buy it.
Absolutely. An excellent affirmative defense.
I needed to have the carbs looked at because I need the orange removed from them. And
yes,
the guy was going to tell me exactly.
So as much as there are many rules regarding the historical registration in the state in which you might live, there are also many exemptions for that should you happen to be cited for operating the vehicle while you have historical plates on it. In my time riding, and I'm 51 years old, it's been a long time, it is my experience that if you do have an interaction with a police officer and they want to be a prick about it, that girl on that Triumph with the pink gas tank, that Triumph bobber, I see her every day riding down Lorraine Avenue. She rides the hell out of that Triumph.
Does she work over there? There's a girl, but that one's pink. Like there was a girl who works over there.
Yeah, she might work there, Triumph. Yeah.
What kind of gas tank?
She has a pink colored gas tank. Yeah. The rest of the bike is black the way it came from the factory, but it has a pink gas tank on it. So probably ordered the pink gas tank from Triumph and away they go. But so that is the rules regarding historical registration. Now, you can get a historical plate simply by going into your BMV and telling them, I need an application for a historical vehicle. And what they're going to do is have your title with you, and then they're just going to look to make sure it's 25 years old. That's all. That's it. And if the bike's 25 years old, they're going to give you a historical plate. Now, if you want a vanity historical plate, you can pick the 6 or 7 letter word that you want to have on there and go through the vetting process. They'll issue you a temporary on paper right then and there, but you will pay $50 or $75 per year to have that plate in that historical configuration. Yeah, I've had a few historical vanity plates.
A note about getting model year plates.
Yep.
So if you... wait a second.
Oh, there you go. There's the whole parade. Yeah. Oh, man.
There's the ride out.
They're out saving lives. Yep.
So if you're going to get model year plates, I think there's like a $3 fee to tie that plate number to your historical plate. Yep. You have to have this historical plate with you if you get pulled over.
Like typically people have the historical plate under the other plate.
You can do it after the fact as well, but it costs more. It's like $7 to tie that plate to it if you do it after the fact.
And I've done that many times over the years. Model year plates is basically go online, and there are companies that will make you, they will actually make for you a model year historical plate. So you tell them what state you want, you tell them what the color configuration is, and you tell them what you want it to say. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
And they'll make you a model year tribute plate. And then you take that plate with you to the BMV. You'll have to take a photocopy of it. And then you'll tie that, like Daniel's saying, they'll tie that plate. So if you have a 72, like for me, I had a 74 Kawasaki H2.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a Kawasaki H2, and I had a plate that said H2 750. So H2 750 that was manufactured for me that looked like an Ohio plate from 1974.
Right.
So it had the red and white color scheme.
It has to be an Ohio plate.
Right.
The vintage plate has to be an Ohio plate.
It has to be the state in which you're in. And so I had this white plate with red lettering that said, H2 750, and I took a photocopy of that and I submitted it right there at the BMV, and they were like, it didn't have to go anywhere else, and they were like, great. And yes, they'll issue you a historical plate that is not the one that you asked for.
Right.
It's it's just a separate. It'll have like a 6 or 7 digit number that means nothing.
Right.
And then you're right. I put it underneath my existing my model year plate. Yep.
It was funny when I did mine, the 76 plate that's on the BMW.
Yeah.
She's giving me a hard time because I brought the plates in. She's looking at it. She said, this plate is supposed to be red letters with a white background, but the background's kind of yellow. And I'm like,
it's old as fuck.
It's called patina.
Right.
And she's like, oh, okay, I get it. She
it's
did,
called
and then
patina.
she did it. You got to be able to tell them what they're looking at.
You must be able to articulate.
You should. And in my particular situation, now you will pay the same price for a model year plate as you will a vanity plate. So the model year plate is going to cost you more money per year than a traditional historical plate that has numbers you don't care about.
But that kind of the only thing I don't like about that is the reason I like the historical plates is because you pay $25
for the rest of your goddamn life.
Yeah, so it's cheaper than a regular registration,
it is.
and you only pay it once,
and you never have to
redo it.
Well, I've got historical plates that are 25 years old. I mean, I've got them 25 years ago, and I may have sold the bike that's there, but it's a Honda plate. So, if dancing between the raindrops is one thing, but it is theoretically good for, like in our case, till 2050, or in some cases 50 years, right? And it is a really good loophole for people who don't ride their motorcycle or that particular bike a lot.
So what you're saying is if I become a GS 850G collector,
yes,
I just need one plate.
Well, you may remember they're not VIN'd to that bike.
I know.
So,
but how many times do they pull
in other states like Wisconsin stuff? In Ohio too, we have what are called collector vehicle plates.
Yeah,
and collector vehicle plates are different than historical vehicle plates.
Huh.
And the idea behind a collector vehicle plate is you'll have your collector vehicle plate, and maybe you have 9 Corvettes, so you could have 01 ABC 123. 02 ABC 123, 03 ABC 123, and you'll get 9 plates for your 9 different Corvettes.
Right.
And you'll essentially be paying one fee for that collection of plates. You'll have the same numbers there, and then an 01, 02, 03 for prefix on those. And that's for, you'll see some things all the time where it was really funny. I saw a Dodge Neon that was the autocross edition, the America, like it's okay. People are into that. That's great. Yeah. But I saw it had a collector vehicle plate on it.
Wow.
And it wasn't old enough to be a historical vehicle, but it was a collector vehicle. And they were able to articulate to the people at the registration bureau that this was a collector vehicle. Now, it probably is among neon enthusiasts, a collector vehicle. And so that, yes, he was able to have a collector vehicle tag for that particular thing. Now, in those collector vehicles, I don't know if the restrictions are the same, but I do know in historical vehicles, we have those restrictions. So that's something you want to be, aware of. And then, of course, with your, there you go.
That's a seat.
That's a Yamaha 750. That's a 3-cylinder Yamaha 750. Yeah.
With a king and queen seat on it.
With a king and queen chopper seat on it.
Yeah.
With
a
big
custom or something?
What's that?
It's not the XS.
It's the XS 750.
But like a D.
It's real late. Yeah, it's real late. It was when everything wanted to be a Harley.
Sway back.
Yeah. It's sway back horse. Exactly. Sway back horse. It's when styling just went out the window. And it's like, we don't know what to do. Fuck it. Throw everything at it. You want mags that look like pinwheels? Sure. Why not? Fuck it. Go for it. Yeah. Some of those bikes, some of those like mid 80s or an early 80s cruiser bikes, really an abomination.
Americans will buy anything.
Well, nobody knew what it was going to be. And,
well, that's what's going on right now. If you look at Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and all this, because I was snorting around and stuff. And there's a lot of people really proud of some junk out there, man.
Yes, there are a lot of people proud of some junk. And we're seeing people that are buying that shit and bringing it in here.
Yeah.
And we're like, no. And, historically, we've been kind of real fast and loose on the 15-year rule.
Yeah.
We're like, we work on bikes that are 15 years old and newer, but if we like them, we'll do a deep dive. But no, we've had to tighten that shit up because there have been some. There you go. Go. So the guy on the bagger in the back, his only piece of safety equipment was a bone back protector, BOHN, like a spine protector, but he was using it like an elaborate kidney belt. He was not wearing it where he should be. T-shirt, DOT T-shirt.
Right.
Yeah.
And he had sunglasses on at night.
He had sunglasses on at night, so he was really safe. Yeah.
Right. I wear my sunglasses.
Little Corey Hart for you.
Yep. Yeah. Also, I learned this week that if it doesn't run or the motor's taken apart and not put back together, they're rare.
Yes, it's rare. It's rare. Right. Or mid-project.
Right.
Complete it your way.
Totally
I have $10,000 into this.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, this guy's got a lot of lumens on his bike.
Oh, yeah. Wow. He did the old...
Yeah, he did. Yeah. What's up? I'm out.
Yep.
Ride free. Yeah. We've seen some bikes come in this week that obviously had not run in 10 years.
Yep.
We've seen so many bikes come in this week.
Bring out your dead.
It is bring out your fucking dead. I've seen more rotors that were rusted, where the calipers were rusted to the rotor. I've seen more garbage this week. It's just getting really ugly out there. And I think what it is people want to ride motorcycles. They want to get into that whole social distancing at 45 miles an hour thing. But what they're not doing is they're not having any discretion whatsoever when they go to look for a bike. They're not obeying any of the rules of buying a used bike because it's gotten to be such a fucking, feeding frenzy. Like, the one thing that coronavirus is going to do is it's going to drag a lot of bullshit bikes out into daylight. And we're seeing a ton of that shit right now.
For instance, the bike that I'm buying Sunday, it's a good looking bike. It's a really good looking bike. And I'm not paying a lot of money for it, which is pretty much what it's worth. But, whatever. I'm not buying it because I'm collecting. I like it and I want to ride it, Right. But looking in Cleveland, because, just in the Craigslist or something like that, people are asking 4 times as much for a bike with like 36,000 miles, missing carburetor, and a broken seat.
Right. Yeah.
It's insane.
The asks are hilarious. Yeah. What we see people asking for bikes and what we see people paying for bikes is just kooky right now. Yeah. It really, really is. And that is a challenging market. But here's the trick. There's the bikes up to $3,500 and then crickets. So like if you have a bike that you're asking $6,000 for, good fucking luck.
Yeah.
If you can't cover it with a stimulus check, it ain't going to happen. So like if you've got a bike and you're listing it at $6,000, you'll have better luck selling 2 bikes at $3,500 than you will selling 1 bike at $6,000.
Definitely.
We have sold the bejesus out of the TNT 135s because you can't get a Grom.
Right.
Like you just can't. Dealers don't have them. People want a small bike. People want a bike they can own for under $3,200. And we've got a lot of them. Like we've done so well with the TNT 135s, and you know what? Not one has come back. So they're all bulletproof. Like the people are riding them, they're happy with them, and they're sending their friends in to buy more of them, which is great because we love referrals. People are really, really happy with the bike, but it's more that they couldn't get a Grom.
Right. And at the end of the day, they're going to be happier. The bike's faster.
I think so. I mean, really, we had a Grom in here yesterday that we serviced, and I took it out for a ride, and it's like a perfectly dialed in Grom. It's everything you'd want a Grom to be.
Yeah. 100%.
And the guy spent probably $1,500 making it this way.
Right.
But I took it out and rode it, and I was like, oh, wow, Benellis are way better.
Yeah, they are.
I mean,
100%.
It is a much better bike, even on a Grom that somebody spent an extra $1,500 on,
right?
Which, honestly, Groms cost a lot more than Benellis to begin with. You can add all that money to it, but it doesn't give the bike a 5th gear. It doesn't give the guy. It doesn't
It'd be
give
interesting
the bike.
to compare Cam's Kawasaki. His what is that?
He's got a
K125.
Yeah.
He's got a Pro.
I mean, Kawasaki's known to be a little more
Z125 Pro.
Does that have a little more balls on a Grom?
Well, hey, let's get Cam over here on that bike and let's do a shootout with 2 things. Let's do a shootout with your breathed on TNT.
Sure.
And we'll do a shootout on a factory, just normal TNT out of the crate.
Why not? The quarter mile's open.
Quarter mile's wide open, apparently.
Did you notice when the parade went by and they were all going fast, a cop went by a half a second later and didn't do shit?
Don't do shit.
It's like, whatever.
No, we're well beyond that. Yeah, that's not.
Hey, did you notice that we were way ahead of the game talking about how stupid Sturgis is?
Yeah.
All the news agencies are reporting on it now, and now they're saying they're estimating 275,000 people because it's the only bike event open all year.
So like, I have a lot of people in my circle that are like, we're going to Sturgis. Like, what the fuck? He's like, well, we weren't going to go to Sturgis. And they're on their way now, right? I mean, this
starts
is
tomorrow. Yeah.
I know. They're most of their way now. But they're saying there's nothing else going on.
Nope.
So because there's nothing going else, they're so fucking starved for a motorcycle event that they got to go to Sturgis. And I'm like, that is the wrong combination. Because you get that kind of pent up fucking hedonism, and it's just gonna be like, as soon as everyone gets gonna Sturgis, and it's gonna be like, I can't take it anymore. Finger in the butt, boom, it's gone. And that's what's gonna happen.
I predict that there's going to be a physical incarnation of the coronavirus at the end of that week. Like a thing walking through. Like,
I am the corona monster. You have corona. You have corona. You
chewing
them
up and spitting them on other people.
That's exactly it.
I mean, it is going to suck when they all those guys hang up their costumes and go back to their dentistry jobs.
Well, that's going to be the problem is when they bring that shit home.
It's going to be terrible, man.
That's the thing is the souvenirs. The souvenirs, you know, if you go out and you have a wild weekend sometime, what's the rule? Don't bring any souvenirs home. Right? Don't bring home anything that you can't explain to your mom or your wife. And I think that this kind of event is this kind of thing that it's just going to be like, wow, this is hedonism. Yeah. I mean,
it's bad. It's going to be bad. And this, if you're thinking about a Harley right now, I'd say wait 8 weeks. 8 weeks.
You might be able to get some really, really good plague
there's
specials. There's
going to be a lot of widows and a lot of like family members.
Real good plague specials.
I know, and even with that, I mean, like with the whole mask controversy, can you legitimately go there and walk around with a mask? Like, I feel like people are going to be trying to punk people out who are wearing a mask.
Yeah, right. It's going to be
a fucking word. Yeah, take your mask. I'm like, well, sorry, we don't serve. I won't serve you without a mask if you're wearing a mask. You know.
That is not going to be happening at Sturgis.
No.
So I guess I understood it right. I did read the article, and it is the citizens and shopkeepers of Sturgis had voted to not have Sturgis.
Right. And the mayor said, no, we have to. There were some that, like, what's that guy? He had a TV show. He has that stupid, like, the Buffalo Chip or whatever the fuck it's called. He was all like, we got to do it.
Of course he does, because that's his entire, that's his Christmas.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a whole show showing him for 11 months freaking out and then just rolling in cash for a month or a week or whatever the fuck it is.
Right. And that's true.
But yeah, the people are terrified. Some of like the local diners and stuff like that are fucking terrified.
It's a tough position to be in, because if I was a mom and pop business owner in Sturgis and you're going to tell me, okay, wait, you mean it's going on?
Right.
Like, I might just be like, okay, board the store up.
Yeah, we're not being
and fuck off. I mean, that might be the time to take the Winnebago and head somewhere else.
You saw our friend is going, Jackie Ham.
Yeah, Jackie's going because she's in the industry.
Yeah.
You know, whether or not whatever Jackie's opinion is of it, that's great. She's Jackie. I'm sure she has an excellent opinion of it.
I'm sure she cares about everything. I'm sure she cares
she's with BMW. She's like with BMW.
But it's kind of like you have to, like you've had to fly on a plane.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So you're willing, you're taking chances because you don't have much choice.
That's a good point.
Your job.
You're right.
And for her, it's kind of like it's her job, and for her not to go.
And I have not flown on a plane since we got back from Portland, and or right after that, I did the Zero meeting. So I got back on, that was when I got the Rona. Got the Rona. But that was like March 1st. So I was back that was my last trip. And that trip, there's no reason for me to get on an airplane since then.
No.
Because my job does not require me to do that.
And I'm going to say at this point now, with how bad it's got, if they asked me to, I would say no. I'd be like, you'll have to fire me. I'm not getting on a plane.
Yeah,
sorry.
It does seem like it's a little unreasonable.
The
at this
COVID
point.
keeps getting closer and closer to me. I don't know if but now I was talking with Bruce the other day, and his daughter, her husband, who's probably going to be ex-husband, got it. Now Beth has it, so his daughter got
Jesus
it.
Christ.
And they were talking. And he's talking about, we're supposed to go on vacation. I don't know if I should cancel or not. I'm like, yeah, you should.
You should cancel. Right. Yeah.
Well, she's only contagious for so long. I'm like, you don't know. I'm like, if I had the COVID, I wouldn't want to be around my mom for at least 3 months, maybe 6 months. I'm like,
it's a very, and now what I'm concerned about is, remember, I was part of that VA test that they did where I was getting tested and I got tested and I have contact tracing set up in my phone. And I'm participating in all those things, voluntarily participating in that. And they do let me know when things happen.
Oh, you have a chip. Come on.
I totally have a chip. It's right in the back of my neck right here. They put a chip in right there. It's Corona chip. It's also good for anything, Communist Party.
Your doors open automatically.
You don't have to worry about the TSA line anymore?
Nothing. No, it's not. Yeah, that's it. They know everything I'm doing now. But what is hilarious is every time I go to Aldi, so when I go to Aldi's across the street from Walmart. So where I live, Aldi's here and Walmart's there. And what's funny is every time I go to Aldi, I get an alert on my contact tracing that because I was at Walmart.
Oh yeah.
So it's geofencing is not that accurate.
Right.
So when I'm at Aldi, which is the Aldi by my house is very chill and everybody's masked up and they're walking
mandatory
the right way in the aisles.
Aldi, yeah.
Like the Aldi is very German. It's like Aldi has it figured out and nobody doesn't obey the rules at Aldi. Nope. They've got the hand sanitizer out. They're wiping down the carts. Aldi is doing a great job. You know why? Because they're fucking German. Well, now Walmart across the street, I've gone in there once or twice. It is fucking Roscoe rules. It is no masks, swastikas, like game on. Like it is totally.
Well, you used to have your other shop, Mentor. Yeah. That Aldi is questionable. They have you mask managed, not the Aldi. I'm not dogging Aldi.
Right.
But the people are not necessarily following through.
Yeah.
And then did you see, I sent a link. Did you see Karen, a new Karen from Mentor in the DMV? Like losing her mind.
Oh, in Mentor?
Oh, yeah, because they asked her. It's on national websites and it made the news.
To give you an idea, Mentor is a suburb about 15 miles east of Cleveland, 20 miles east of Cleveland. And Mentor's claim to fame is for cities around 60,000 inhabitants. Mentor is the whitest city in America of its size.
Oh, yeah.
And that was where I used to be a police officer.
Yeah.
And so it is epically white. Like Mentor is crazy white. And
there's a lot of people that are very privileged with the whiteness out there.
Yeah.
But this one's great. She's in the DMV. Apparently her boyfriend is getting something and she just refuses to wear a mask and people start talking to her and the person comes up, the owner or whatever he is.
Yeah.
And he's like, ma'am, you have to leave. There's that. She goes, I'm not putting a mask on. I'm not here to do anything. I'm just standing here. He's like, well, you can't stand here.
Then you definitely shouldn't be in here.
That's my pretext.
Right. Yeah.
You're because when I worked that whole thing, and it's like, you're not here to, if you're not here to do a transaction, then you're not welcome here. But please leave because this is a business. And if you're not here to do business, fuck off.
Fuck off.
But I mean, it gets to the point where it's so uncomfortable to watch because other people are like, I have a deficiency in immunity.
Yeah.
You're putting my life at risk. She goes, I don't care. And then the best part is her boyfriend who's in line goes, please don't do this. We don't need the cops called again.
Again. Oh.
So he added the again to it. And I was like, wow. But meanwhile, she's filming. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
She filmed herself and uploaded this herself.
To show the world
how awful everybody. So you have
she's 20, a freedom fighter.
Yeah. There's 20 people in there of all different, like you see one dude that looks like he just got off his Harley.
Right.
And he's never bathed in 6 months and he's wearing a fucking mask.
Right. Exactly.
Then you got the guy that's in a suit and tie. He's wearing a mask. A girl with a cane. She's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
He's the only person that's not doing it. And like all these people are like, everybody's polite to her at first. Like, look, ma'am, just whatever. But then
they're still in Ohio.
Right. And as she ramps up her stupidity, everybody starts being like, why are you so...
What's broken with you?
Like, what is your deal? Like you're planting your flag in this?
Yeah.
And so
this is not the hill I want to die on.
Right. Yeah. And it's like 20 minutes long. That's how long this video is. And at the end, she goes, well, I guess I'm going to go. The cops are coming. And I wanted to see what happened with the cops.
I would too.
But
that's where you got to switch over to the body cam channel.
I'm sure it's going to be a follow-up on this one.
We've had a few, but the one that I've had yesterday, the gentleman called in ahead of time and he says, I want to make an appointment because our shop is appointment only, which, by the way, greatest way to run a motorcycle shop ever. Because people who make appointments are there to make transactions. Right.
So you might keep this going then.
Forever. Forever.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a world where we're back open again. I do not want to see a world where our door is unlocked and just any fucking meat off the street can wander in.
Or idiots like me back, like because I work in near Menor, which is horrible, but I used to come to your other shop and just annoy you at lunch.
Just bullshit. But people who've not worked in the motorcycle shop world don't understand that because we're where we are in Cleveland, we're super seasonal. Yeah. So we can't have enough staff ever.
Right.
So like the right amount of staff is always like 2 people too few.
Right.
Right. And so what happens is during my work day, which is from like 7 in the morning until about 9:30 at night, I generally am just always overtasked.
Right.
And so I'm usually just behind the 8 ball somehow. And people will get it and just be like, dude, I just needed this and I'm out of your fucking way. And that's great. You're my best friend ever. And we will bullshit when we're at the bar with big drinks, right? And that's usually where it works. And when John comes in, John's great. John comes into the shop, he's invisible. If he needs something, he takes it and fucks off. Or he drops something off, he drops it off and he fucks off. If he sees I'm with a customer, like, John always respects my time at the shop so well. And most people honestly do because they know us and we've been doing this for 20 years.
I've been doing that though. I mean, I learned that when you were down on 25th Street.
Right.
It was like, yeah, come in, you know. And then I'd be out for a ride or something. I'm like, well, I'll stop in there and see what's going on.
Right.
I picked up my PNT without talking to you.
Right. You're busy. You're constantly dealing with people. I know I'm not there to spend money. So it's like, or there was also that point where it was like, well, I'll buy something like a light bulb or something. Just
to justify my existence.
I'll get a set of spark plugs or a jug of oil or something. Just, I didn't just
try to keep him in business just a little while longer. Well, this dude called and he goes, I got to tell you, he says, your appointment. I said, yeah, we're appointment only. I'm like, let me get you set up with an appointment. I got a great schedule. It works perfectly. It's been the best thing ever for my business. He goes, well, I got a health restriction. I can't wear a mask. I was like, okay. I had asthma my entire time. I had to fake not having asthma to get into the military.
Right.
Like I faked not having asthma to get into the Army. So, but I had albuterol inhalers my whole existence as, as a child. And then when I got in the Army, I kind of grew out of it a little bit.
They worked it out of you.
Yes, thank you. They PT'd it right the fuck out of me. You know where my asthma went? Right on the pavement. I pushed Fort Knox, Kentucky all the way to China. Fuck
One day this little piece of flesh come out of your lung.
That was asthma. Oh. I saw it. It crawled away. That was my asthma. And I do occasionally have like asthma stuff, but whatever. So this guy said he couldn't wear a mask. That's fine. I got no problem with that. I said, well, I'll tell you what, do me a favor. Figure out what bike you want to buy. And when you show up, I'll schedule you a time. I'll schedule an appointment like everybody else, but I'll bring the bikes out to you. And him and his wife were out here in the parking lot. Super cool. She wore a mask. He didn't. James and I paraded 4 different bikes out there. Mm-hmm. And you know what he did? He bought a bike.
Wow.
And that is like an example of like, yes, even though he couldn't wear a mask or didn't wear a mask or wouldn't wear a mask.
Right. Whatever the reason is, doesn't matter.
We still served him.
Right.
We took bikes out to him.
I've made that argument. It's like, okay, I go to Home Depot.
Right.
You say a mask is required.
Right.
Either I'm a moral objector or whatever reason, I don't want a mask.
Right.
You should have a runner.
Yeah.
I can show up there and say, I need this, and this.
They have it.
You bring it right here, bring out, and I can do the transaction curbside.
They have 8 curbside only parking spots where you place your order online and say pick up and they bring it out to you.
That's how my wife does. So I
love that. That's what we did. I bought a TV from Best Buy.
Yeah. Yep.
Peggy ordered it online. I pulled into the thing. She loaded it in the trunk. See you later. Bye.
Perfect. Yep. And I mean, we're on the fucking CoronaCast now for Jesus Christ. I didn't want to do that. But it is that kind of thing that it does work at motorcycle shops too. Mm-hmm. And we have people that tell us, oh, I want to buy a helmet. I need to buy a helmet. I'm like, okay, great. Let's get an appointment. Let's get you into the shop. And this one lady was walking around. She's like, she came in and she was with 2 of her other friends that were like trying to buy a bike. And she's like, I just want to tell you, I love your store. And I was like, that's great. I'm so happy you're having a good time. And she's like, yeah. And she goes, but we have masks. Like we give people masks if they don't have one. So I gave this woman a mask because she didn't have one. Who doesn't have a mask at this point? I don't know. They're fashionable. And you're not part of the team if you don't have a mask. Fuck you.
Right.
And so she came in, we gave her a mask and she goes, oh, I got to tell you, I love these bikes. I think I touched every single one of you. One of them. And I said, I know. I've been watching. I get to clean them all. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, when you guys leave, I'm going to Lysol everything you touched. And she's like, oh shit, really? And I was like, no, for real. That's what happens. That's why we're doing scheduling. When you leave, when you're
sanitize the building.
Yeah. Yeah. Pick a little, tuck a little, pick a little, tuck a little, pick, tuck a lot, pick a little more. When you guys roll out, I'm going to go and just fucking hit everything, and that's what I do.
We went to the guitar store and the way it works there is they have the tag tucked into the string.
Okay.
If you pick it up and touch it, you're supposed to leave the tag out. They know that's been touched.
That's smart.
So they go and they'll sanitize those guitars.
That's a good idea. Cool. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Oh, that's a really, really good idea. That's badass. Because like sometimes if people are picking up their bike and I'm like, oh, because for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I just wore gloves. And, I understand the way latex gloves work. Right. I'm adept at that. So what I did is I had about 12 sets of light duty mechanics gloves. And what I would do is I would put them on a rotation. So we know Corona only lives for so long on stuff.
Right.
So that's those gloves would get put aside and they wouldn't get put on for another 3 days or 4 days. Right. So every 4 times a day, I'd rotate in fresh gloves. They weren't getting cleaned every time. They were just getting put away for a few days.
They were getting quarantined.
Thank you.
You can bake them at 160 and that should
bake bullshit. I'm not going to bake my goddamn nylon gloves at 160. I'm going to have little blubs of rubber or something.
No, not at 160. I'll
microwave them.
Yeah, that might melt.
Whatever. I also know that I can set them aside for 3 or 4 days. They'll probably be okay. Yeah, in any case, I was doing that and I was going through just ripping, but these things are like $7 a pair.
Right.
Who cares? And they're cool. And so I was doing all my prep work on the bikes and stuff. So I'd come out and I'd have my gloves on and give the bike to the customer. And then I'd go change my gloves. And the guy was like, I was watching you. And he goes, you're really doing that. And I was like, do you know how happy we are to be open?
Right.
There are states where what I do is not allowed to be open. They're fucked. Like Michigan, Pennsylvania. 2 of our brethren states are not allowed to do what we're doing every single day.
Think about all the venues.
Oh my God.
The grog shop.
Oh, I feel terrible for Kathy.
Yeah. Everybody.
So you watch what Kathy does at the grog shop and we go way back with Kathy and she's amazing. Mm-hmm. And the grog shop is a place where all of us have seen the world's greatest punk rock bands ever. I mean, I saw Link Ray there. I saw Dick Dale there.
Yep.
Like my history at the grog shop is epic. And
if you live in Cleveland and you're under 60 years old.
Euclid Tavern and the grog shop. Yeah.
You've been to one of those
Cleveland
places.
institution.
It is. And to see Kathy's thing. So if you guys want to look up something really cool, look up grog shop and it's called Getting Venues Open Again. But
today is the day. Unfortunately, today's like the last day that you have to let the politicians know or something.
Right. But it is true that these music venues have not been able to earn a nickel since this whole thing started. And meanwhile, remember that these are the people that brought you the Lemonheads. These are the people that brought you the Ramones. These are the people that brought you. Kathy has booked. I got to know Kathy probably in 1990. And Kathy has booked so many amazing bands through Cleveland out of what the grog shop used to be. It was a real shithole.
And she was cool,
and it was epic.
Because she always incorporated a local Cleveland band with a big band.
Always.
So she really helped a lot of bands become something too.
So that was a really great thing.
I remember
for
seeing the White Stripes at the Beachland.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that's also too the Beachland. They've been there 25 years, 20 years now or something like that.
These are venues that we absolutely love, that we go to and we try to give all of our money to whenever we can. But they've gone through a really, really tough time right now.
So what's the status of the grog shop? Like
they're closed.
They're closed. It's closed
forever. Or?
No, I don't know.
Until this whole thing lets up.
But they're hurting. All these places are hurting.
They're not going to open up like Vegas and do well, fuck it, we're open.
All they can do is close, shutter the place, and go try to earn money some other way.
So all these places are doing to-go cocktails now. Right. So what's up with Porco?
Porco is Stefan is taking a very, very high road with this. So I've been there, a few times and been over there to pick stuff up and drop stuff off.
Yeah.
And, Porco's, they're doing some improvements. They're working on the facility, but they're not even suggesting that they're open. So different bars like LBM and stuff are trying to work it. And I know our friends Kevin at the Moonglow are doing a great job.
Kevin just opened, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like he just
opened in time for the shutdown, And what they're doing is the state's allowing a 3-drink minimum, a 3-drink maximum with a food order. And so they're working with other food vendors to kind of get food in there so that you can do that. But now the state just shut it down so you can't drink after 10 p.m.
Right.
Which I don't even see what sense that makes.
I do, because I have been in those environments when people get too much liquid encouragement in them. And 10 o'clock rolls around, it's ambiguous as fuck. Yeah, 10 o'clock is bullshit.
I think that what they should have done
Dutch courage.
They should have done nobody inside after 10 to go till 1 or 12 or something.
The crazy thing about Stefan, though, is he has that whole area. I mean, he really could do a lot of outside stuff. I mean, you could have it really spaced out.
You really could.
But it's difficult. I mean, so,
I think he cares about his staff, though, because he just doesn't want to risk the people that work for him, Because
it might change if the unemployment runs out. Now, before it was almost doing people a favor to stay closed because you can, if you're not working, you can sit home, you can get the unemployment, you're making it relatively comfortable, as opposed to like some places who reopened and like you're the Mexican restaurant. So you brought these people back in. Now they're not getting the unemployment, but they're only getting a half of their tips because you can only do half of the business
or a quarter or something. Right.
Yeah. It's a slow death then. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's such a weird, strange, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm happy to be working. I'm sure you're happy to be working. And
I'm happy to be working.
It's nice to have a paycheck during this and seeing like, all the people struggling. You know what I'm starting to see pop up, and I know it's kind of depressing, but you're starting to see families on the side of the road like need food or need money and stuff like that. And like not like your typical like you get to the end of the highway and there's the same dude every week. These are like new people out there.
I've been saying this, more than once, that everybody's putting the memes up and saying about how bad 2020 was. Fuck 2020. It's such a bad year. You have no idea what's in store for 2021.
I don't know. Yeah.
When just the general decline. I mean, when the rent that's not going to get paid, the commercial real estate. I mean, people renting. You're renting a floor for $30,000 in some building downtown, and now everybody's working from home.
Right.
Like they're already. I just read an article about that where commercial real estate's going to tank. This is going to tank. That's going to tank.
Well, a lot of people figured out, like especially tech companies, not mine, of course, but other ones have figured out that they're running just fine with people running from home, and they can save $30,000 a month by not having the building.
People, they spent $5,000 to have you work from home. Right. They're just going to leave you there.
Yeah,
and they're going to close the office, and they're going to do this and they're going to do that.
I took a step away, but I did want to say that Stefan and a lot of our other bar owners, a lot of our people that have great institutions here, I got to give them a ton of credit for taking the risk and taking the high road.
Right.
Because what they're doing is they're leaving it in the hands of their staff, and they're saying, because you guys, what Porco does, the quality of their staff, the quality of the people that work there, the dedication, the talent for them to do what they do, I can't fucking get close to that shit. Let alone, I can't make 12 drinks, let alone make 1,200 drinks.
And not only that, but like I don't mean to compare them to like a McDonald's or a Starbucks, but like they're the high end of cool drinks, but you never go there and the drink is never bad. Like it's always... Like, if you get a painkiller,
their accuracy is amazing.
And you get a painkiller in July,
it's consistent service.
Same fucking drink.
And the people that work there are the top of the fucking market by any standard. The people that staff these places, all of our friends, Society, Porco, the White Owl, everybody. I mean, I'm sorry, Spotted Owl. These guys are all top of the fucking game, and they really, really are. And to respect their staff by saying, look, we're not going to put you in that environment where everything is a petri dish with a bunch of drunk assholes. Because when places do open, that's how Florida got fucked. That's how Texas got fucked, was the laissez-faire attitude of, well, you know what, we're going to be open and serving drinks. And then all of a sudden, everybody's sick.
And what we said was, or bring you back so you can earn, take you off of unemployment so you can earn a quarter of what you could have normally.
It's really an ugly scene, and I feel terrible for people that have to make that decision. It's an awful decision to make.
Yeah.
But what I give them credit for is, by as much as I fucking hate it, because I fucking live there if I could.
Yep.
What I give them credit for is holding to their fucking guns and sticking to their guns and saying, it's more important that we continue to have staff that can give quality product to our customers. And these cats that worked there have come up, they've had to do a lot of other things to pay the bills and come up with and I feel terrible for what they're going through. So
I feel like Stefan was responsible though, and he had a really good run right before this. And I'm pretty sure he's not, he's socked away something.
Hopefully we don't see the end of a lot of places that we love.
Yeah.
And hopefully that when the light goes green again, and when these guys feel like it's safe to go back in the water, that we can all go out and celebrate and rock on.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it's
but nobody knows when that is.
No, nobody knows when that is.
Right?
But
nobody knows when that is.
I have to say though, my liver has recovered quite decently from Porco not being open for a while.
Yeah.
So there's one good thing about it.
Exactly. My problem is I'm drinking a lot less.
Yeah.
But when I'm drinking more. so I'm having the very high spots and low spots. Whereas before I was in a nice cruising altitude. So generally all week I'd kind of be like here with maybe one small dip.
Yeah.
Where now I'm all like down here and then the occasional like, fuck, you know, so I'm very much like become a college kid. And I never went to college, but I'm starting to understand what their liver feels like.
See, for me, being retired, it's just the opposite.
Is it?
You know, I used to have, and it's weird, my drinking nights were like Monday through Thursday, maybe Friday. On the weekend, I wouldn't drink.
Right.
No, I just drink every day.
Every day.
You earned it, man, right?
You were drinking earlier today, weren't you?
Yeah.
Weren't you I saw you
before
post
I got
up,
here.
Oh, I thought I saw you post up some beers and stuff.
No, that was actually from like 4 or 5 nights ago.
Oh, okay.
No, but anytime I have not anytime, it's only been a couple times, but if I have a day off,
Right.
I'll say, hey, Dan, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to this brewery at 3.
Right.
Meet me there.
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
like it's your job or something.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that.
I thought you worked at a brewery. Do you work at a brewery? No.
Did I? No.
No,
I thought you
I
worked
was
for the
a
VA.
program analyst.
at one point I'm like, does he work for Fatheads or something like that? I'm
No,
like,
but he's like that perfect unpaid representative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fathead's a noble beast.
Right. Yeah. You are definitely,
speaking of Noble Beast, didn't you do a ride? Wasn't there a little ride that happened? A little bit of event?
Well, we did that was the big long one.
The big
we
long
talked
one.
about last week.
No, yesterday.
Well, yesterday.
Yeah. You went with a couple buddies, right?
That's actually kind of become unofficial Noble Beast vintage bike night.
Nice.
It's taken
Wednesday
over for Don
is half
Douche.
price wing night.
That's the new official non-douchebag bike night.
That's the new non-douchebag bike night.
There you go.
I like that. I like the idea of that. Yeah.
You know, they're doing it right. Walk in the door, you got to have a mask on.
Right.
If you're not seated at your table, you got to wear a mask.
Right.
They made the bathroom single occupancy. There's a little foot switch.
Yeah.
It turns a light on.
Nice.
Tells you the bathroom's occupied. And they're strict about it. I mean, if you get up without a mask, they're all over you.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of motorcycles,
Yeah.
did you see that Kawasaki's getting serious about electric bikes now?
Tell me more.
So if there was an article on Adventure Rider, Kawasaki's patent came in, and they have a thing here. Let me see if I can pull it up. But
at some point, I want everybody guess what the Kawasaki name for their electric bike was.
My computer's been drinking, so I had to put it on
We have
timeout.
to come up with a Kawasaki eccentric name for an electric motorcycle. I'm thinking out about
a Kawasaki name for an electric motorcycle. That's pretty good.
I'm going to call mine the Kawavolt or the
Kawavolt.
something like that. A Kawawatt.
There goes our friend Harry Palace again.
Oh yeah, first gear guy. Yeah.
I think actually that's just all third gear.
Third. Okay, yeah, he missed second. Right.
Yeah, he's
the Kawawatsky.
The Kawawatsky. Nice.
Now it says patent shows Kawasaki is serious about electric motorcycles. Kawasaki patent application shows that the Japanese manufacturer is getting serious by entering the electric motorcycle department. As seen in the video below, Kawasaki has already released some information about its electric motorcycle program. And lots of other stuff, whatever. But it seems like they're going to have 3 to 4 different models coming out.
Right.
And then here, look at the little diagram. So the big battery thing in the middle.
Yeah, there's a big square in the middle of a, exactly.
It looks a lot like a Zero.
It does look a lot like a Zero.
Right?
The battery pack looks remarkably Zero-ish.
And so does the motor placement and where it is.
Right. There's a lot of Zero happening right there.
Yeah.
And I also like with electric motorcycles, you can have one of those diagrams and it really only has like 4 components. Frame, battery, motor, handlebars, 2 wheels. Done. That's your patent application.
But this is my favorite. Look at this little diagram and like scroll through it.
Okay.
What are they trying to talk about there? There's houses, there's motorcycles.
4 motorcycles in a house. That is the weirdest thing. That is so fucking strange.
Are they trying to say that everybody in your household should ride an electric Kawasaki motorcycle? Like
I have no idea.
Wait, 4 bikes equals a power wall?
Oh, maybe you can power your house.
It does. So what they're saying is that you can basically have a power wall in your house using the Kawasaki batteries.
Oh.
So you could have up to 4 motorcycles in your garage and maybe 6 or more motorcycle cells powering your home. And then just take a cell as you need it and put it in the bike to go fuck off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the premise of that, though, is you can find some place to charge your bike for free.
Right.
When you go to work, you charge your bike up at work and bring the power home.
That's true. Hey, boss, I'm going to leave home early today. Why? Wife's got to blend some eggs. Wife needs to make a souffle.
The refrigerator stopped.
The refrigerator quit running. I'm just here long enough to charge up my motorcycle. And then I'm going to go home and take... So our friend Brandon Nozaki Miller has come up with some technology that is designed to go backwards, and instead of taking power from your house, put power from your electric motorcycle back into things.
Oh, okay.
That's what I've always said is like, why isn't there a power inverter built into each one of those zeros where you could plug stuff in like a 110 outlet?
Well, Brandon's idea is that, yes, Brandon has pioneered a platform. We'll let people look it up in the show notes or whatever. It's more fun that way. You can have a quest, but look up Brandon Nozaki Miller, and he has come up with a concept where, or probably patented at this point because Brandon's a very smart guy. He has come up with a way that you can literally take your electric motorcycle, go down to the Walgreens, get your charge on for $1 or so, and then bring that electricity home to you, and then plug your house or whatever else into it with a device that is a backwards supply of electricity for your house or your RV or your camper or whatever else. Right. Use that giant fucking battery in your motorcycle for good. You know, it doesn't just need to sit there and wait for you to ride it.
What's hilarious is that we're doing this with motorcycles and nobody's been doing it with the cars, which have an even bigger
batteries. You know, you think about your Tesla, if you're out on the road somewhere and you charge up at a super Tesla supercharger, that car is a giant battery transportation system bringing electricity back to your house.
Well, did you see there's companies now that are making electric retrofits, plug and play for all the old VW stuff, VW bugs and buses and stuff, because they use that tray for the motor.
Exactly.
So you can just plug an electric thing in and go.
We talked about the Yamaha had the modular power rig.
I don't remember.
Well, we talked. One of them, like we were talking about putting it in K cars. So there's there's literally a unit that is 2 motors, and you know all you need is like, where does the battery go, and here's the motors, and it's like, okay, well this used to be a car, internal combustion.
Right. Well, that was my idea. Like you could turn any car into a hybrid by just replacing. If it's a front wheel drive car, you take out the rear axle and you put in a live axle with a motor and put a battery in the trunk.
There you go. You're done.
And now it's an all-wheel drive hybrid.
Yeah. Isn't there a American company making crate motors for cars, the electric crate motors?
Yes. And I'll have to channel his name for the show notes or something. But we did have a gentleman stop by here who does build modular electric vehicles. So very, very cool. Neat thing to get into at this point, because we all can appreciate his Dodge Challenger. However, it is really, really fun for me to jump on my Zero and go fuck off super fast.
Right.
And I do ride that bike a lot, and
you would quadruple the power of any Volkswagen van by putting an electric motor.
Oh my God.
We go from 55 miles an hour.
And Volkswagen vans were always that kind of thing. It's like, they're pathetically slow. There's never been a fast one. But the trick was when you did build a fast one and you put that long block 1600 in there and you built a really good motor, the problem was the front of the van pushed all the air out of the way, so the air couldn't go into the intakes for the cooling on the back of the van. So you created a dead zone of air so that you'd overheat almost instantly.
Well, and that's the thing is what kept a lot of the hippies alive in the 60s was the slow van.
Slow vans.
That's why they're still here,
I don't know if any of you have really been really, really properly baked. But if you've ever been properly baked, the last thing you want to do is fast.
Yeah, no.
Like fast is the worst thing when you're baked.
There's this comedian. He's this black dude. He's fucking hilarious. He talks about Mr. Alcohol and Mr. Weed.
Okay, yeah.
And he's like, Mr. Alcohol is like on a Saturday. It's like, hey, why don't you get in the car and get on the highway? And you're like, okay, Mr. Alcohol, we can do that.
Right.
He's like, oh, there's a cop behind us, Mr. Alcohol. He's like, hit the gas. We can beat him, whatever. And then he's like, then you get in the car and Mr. Weed's like, hey, I'm kind of hungry. And he's like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, what do you do? He's like, let's go to McDonald's. He's like, oh, yeah, all right. And he's like driving. He's like, hey, man, we should take the highway. He's like, you sure, Mr. Weed? He's like, oh, we'll be safe.
We'll be fine.
Yeah. And so he's like driving, and he's like, use your turn signal. Okay.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, there's a cop. He's pulling us over. Okay, don't worry. You're not an amateur. Let's do this. And he just goes through the whole thing about how nice everything is. And he's like, yes, officer, no problem.
I stay away from cars when I've been smoking. Like, my whole rule is very simple. I one time, many, many, many years ago, a long time ago, let's just say, statute of limitations is long fucking gone. I once stopped at a green light for about 15 minutes. And
How many times did it change?
Yeah. I was at a green light for about 15 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. Because I was new to that. That was new to me.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you're new.
Well, as I said, I was in the military and I was in law enforcement, so I was really late to the game.
I followed the Grateful Dead for a little while, and I can tell you, driving home from a Grateful Dead show, oh geez. Yeah. And it's like playing the game of looking at this, being totally sketched out, staring at the speedometer, and then looking at the road and be like, how long was I staring at the speedometer?
How long was I
staring at the speedometer? And be like,
I have a crazy story, and it probably helps explain why I'm mentally incapacitated. So in 1992, I was DJing at the Limelight in New York City, and I had played, and like we stayed up all night, and and played, and I got paid in cash. We had a rental car.
Yeah.
And this is like the rave days. So instead of STP, I had a shirt that said LSD with the thing and stuff. And we're driving home.
And it was Acid House.
Yeah, right.
That was what we did. Yeah.
So we're driving back, and we're coming back. I was going to Akron U at the time, so we're coming from New York to Akron University, going through New Jersey.
Right.
And it's like it's winter. It's like December, and it's cold, and we're driving. And I see a cop behind me, so I pull over, and I'm like, okay, whatever. He comes up, and he's like, all right, where are you guys going? And I try to tell him it's like that. He's like, I'm going to need you guys to step out of the car. And I was like, what's the problem? He's like, here's the deal. I can either call for backup, get a warrant, and do it, or you can just agree with me. I was like, fine. He goes, I know you probably have drugs in the car. Or I'm sorry, I forgot about one thing. So we did. My roommate had like 2 sheets of acid in the car. We were bringing home. So as we got pulled over, he was like,
unbeknownst to any of you, though, right?
Well, I didn't know. Yeah. Whatever. But he was like, eat this. And so I ate one, and he ate one. And that's when the cop. Yeah, that's when the cop came.
Right. Oh boy.
And so we're sitting there, and he pulls us out of the car, and it was cold outside, and that's kind of what saved me, because I was shivering because I started to feel the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So he was doing this thing where he was like, where are you going? And I said, Akron. He's like, I thought you said you were in New York. And I said, well, I was in New York, but I'm going home. And he was just fucking with it, just trying to think. He separated us 50 feet apart on the guardrail. He'd come to me, go to him, come to me, go to him. And so I don't know if anybody's ever done acid here, but it takes about 20 minutes, 30 minutes to kick in, and you start to see things separate. Like a line in the concrete will go from black to red, black and blue, kind of like separations. So that starts to happen, and I'm like, oh, this is bad. I'm like, this is not good.
It's kicking in.
And so this starts to happen, and he comes back, and he's like, do you mind if I search your car? I think we have probably you search your car. If you say no, it's fine. We'll wait here. I'll get a warrant and search it anyways. Yeah. So I was like, go ahead, man. And so they dig through all my records, because I used to play records. So he's like literally looking through all the records, throwing them on the ground and everything.
Oh my God.
So here's another thing I didn't know until after the fact.
Listen, kids, never give anyone permission to search your car.
Yes.
If they can get a warranty, if they can get a warrant, let them prove it.
Yeah. Well,
I was getting a warrant involves. Yeah. It's not just like, oh yeah, I'll have somebody send me, that's like, you got to call a judge somewhere. Wake them up.
I was 21 years old and high. I was a little nervous. But anyways, my roommate didn't tell me. Right. This is the best part. He didn't tell me he had 10,000 hits of ecstasy inside of a sock bag in the trunk.
Oh, well.
I didn't know about this, right?
Yeah.
So they're digging through the trunk. And apparently, I found out again after the fact, the cop pulled the bag of socks out, threw it on the ground. It rolled down through the thing. And whatever. So anyways, they didn't find anything, all this stuff. My roommate goes and gets the fucking bag of socks.
Well, of course he does.
Puts it back in the car.
It's worth $20,000,
Yeah. So anyway, so we get back in, and the cop goes, listen, there's 50 miles from here to the PA border. Right. I'm going to follow you the entire way. If you do anything wrong at all, I'm going to pull you over. We're going to go through this all again.
Oh, my God.
So I get in the car, and we all get in the car, and we're driving, and I'm doing 55, and I'm looking, and I'm trying not to hold the steering wheel. I'm just trying to keep it kind of, like I'm flicking it to keep it kind of going straight so I don't have to hold it. And when I tell you, like, everything's kind of starting to happen, it's happening. And so we're driving about 20, 30 minutes. Cops behind us the whole way, and it starts to fucking snow.
Please tell me you had cruise control.
No cruise control. And it starts to snow. And so I don't know if you've ever, just even driving at night in the snow, it looks like you're in the Millennium Falcon.
Warp
shit
speed,
fucking going everywhere. And so I'm starting to kind of trip out, and the fucking cop lights go on, and my heart sinks. And my balls go up inside my chest, and I'm like, motherfucker. And then he just turns around and goes the other way.
Yeah, you get a better call.
And so when that happened,
the relief, babysit you for an hour.
No, but the relief of the cop leaving, everything went. And like we're
time
in this
decompressed.
car. Now this is before cell phones, before anything.
get off at the next exit immediately.
You need to get off at the next exit.
We got off at the Poconos. It was the first exit we got off. We found a $42 a night hotel.
Get a hotel room.
And we got 4 nights. And we stayed there for 3.
Oh, wow.
And
you needed all 3
I have no problem. I'm not gay, but I have no problem. But like me and Joe sat on the bed and held hands for 3 days. We made it to the bathroom to get water and stuff. And at some point, I must have been passed out, but he had called his girlfriend, who then drove from Akron, Ohio, to the Poconos, and then picked us up on Tuesday.
Holy shit!
And then took us home.
My God.
So yeah, that was
crystallized.
That was. And anyway, so since that day, my vocabulary's changed. I see things much different.
Yeah.
My sense of humor is only funny to me, apparently. And
the worm has definitely turned for you, my friend.
We've always, I mean, we joke about it on this podcast a lot, but motorcycles are this strange thing because, the lane is built for cars.
Yeah.
The whole world is built for cars.
Right.
And motorcycles are this strange vehicle that gives you a superpower to do things, out there.
Right.
And, if you can do this, well, you haven't violated the marked lanes yet. You look silly as fuck, but you're still within the marked lanes.
You're getting through.
And motorcycles are a very strange thing for people that are recreational users. And I have definitely had my experience on both sides of law enforcement with recreational users. And I've always just been like, when I think back to my short career in law enforcement and the number of people I had interacted with where I'm like, I know this guy is just super he's on everything but skates right now. And I just can't figure out what he's on because my inexperience with the drug world was just like, I just don't know how to act with this guy. So I just generally just be like, are you totally okay to be doing what you're doing right now? Yeah, I got this. Okay. I'm going to go that way. I want you to go that way.
Yeah.
That's it.
How far are you from home? Yeah, just go there. That'd be your best.
Run along, please.
Yeah.
A lot of law enforcement is location, location, location.
Oh,
You're like,
you're gone.
I accidentally tapped my thing.
There you go.
Okay, we're back?
Yep.
Okay, we're back. A lot of law enforcement is location, location, location. And so much of it was just like, okay, this could be the end of my night. Or you could just go that way, just a little further. And I did find that a lot of that, I used to ride with a guy that when we would get to the Indiana line, he'd crack a beer and put it in his bike buoy. You know what a bike buoy is? It's a cup holder.
Yeah, the thing that...
And it swivels, right? So you can lean and the beer can just stays vertical no matter how much you swivel. I got one, right? And when we get to the Indiana line, because Indiana line, you could have an open container in a motor vehicle as long as you weren't drunk.
Really?
I know. It seems a very strange...
now?
I don't know, but it seemed a very trusting law back then.
Right?
And so... invariably, when we'd be traveling into Indiana, we'd pull over to the side of the road. He'd always insist, and he rode a GL 500, a Goldwing 500 motorcycle with all the bags and the backrest that pushed up, all the cool shit. And he had this like fully dressed out Goldwing 500, and he'd pull over and he'd pull a beer out of his saddlebag and he'd put it in his beer cozy and he'd put it in his little bike buoy. And he's like, as long as I'm under the limit, I can drink while I'm driving. And I was like, how important is that to you?
Yeah.
I'll wait till we get to the fucking bar,
Right.
And I rode cross country with that guy and he did that. And I was just like, that's so weird. But he just loved having the freedom of being able to do that.
Dude,
it's like dudes who get to Ohio and they're like, the helmet is off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember being like 10 and
I'm surprised there's not like helmets laying at the border.
Just like, welcome to PA. Take a helmet.
Everybody here is about the same age. You're a little bit older, but back in the late 70s and early 80s, I had a friend's dad who would drive us places, and he had a Bronco, and in the Bronco between the front seats was a cooler, and then behind the cooler was a thing that he cut into the where the transmission pan is, so he could slide it open and throw empty beers out
on the road.
So like he had his road cooler, and we'd be like, there'd be 3 kids, like he'd be taking all the kids to wherever. And he's just sucking down beers the whole time. Down the thing.
Oh, casual drunk driving.
Normal. It was
just normal.
Yeah, in the 70s and 80s.
I used to drive a limo for a while, and I would always brief the people in the back of the limo because you never know who you have in the back of the limo. It's just you get what you get, right? People rent limos.
You have to have some interesting stories.
I do have a couple, and but what I would do is when I would pick the group up,
that's for the 45-minute show.
I would brief my customers in the back of the limo. I'd say, okay, guys, so this is the way the limo works, and here's the bar, and here's this, and here's that, and here's your cooler, and this is all great. But here's the rule, okay? You guys are in the back of the car. So what you do back here is fine. If we get pulled over, that's just great. But what I would ask of you, please, is there's a dump between the back seats of the limo. So every limo has this. So it'll either be between the back seats or like on that platform on the deck.
Okay.
By the back window. There'll be a hatch. And that hatch, there's a nice recycling bin back there. And I ask you to put all your empties, whatever it might be, in the hatch. Because the hatch goes into the trunk.
That includes used condoms.
And it's a one-way world. It's like literally a time vortex. It's like whatever this paraphernalia was that
you're gone.
Doesn't happen. It's gone.
You hit it.
I'm gone again.
There you go.
It? Okay.
Nope, gone. Wait.
We might have to get a different cable.
We got to get a different cable.
Yeah, we'll get it. Are we in?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, we're in.
Or just don't hit it.
I won't hit it again. Yeah, that might be the best idea. And so quit doing that. And so I would always tell the customers in the back of the car, I'd be like, okay, well, just remember, when you're done with whatever you're using, it's a housekeeping thing too. We don't want a bunch of cans and bottles rolling around the back of the car. And so as luck would have it, one time I'm having this particularly good party. And a good party means like they've hired you till 1 a.m. But then they're like, hey, we're going to go to strip clubs. And you're like, oh, yeah, you do. Okay, I'm going to take you to a few great ones. But I get there and I'd walk inside and be like, look, I got 4 people in the car, 5 people in the car. They're a really great group. And I know you're not letting anybody else in right now. There goes that caddy. That thing is in bad shape.
It's not doing well.
That is not in good shape. So that's
loud and slow.
Yeah, loud. That's like a 305 in there. That is not a big motor. But anyway, so I get them into a couple of clubs and I talk to the bartender, get a bottle or two because they needed a bottle in the car. And so I'm buying bottles and I go back in the car and be like, hey, look, these guys will get you a bottle of Jack, but it's going to be $100.
Right.
Boom, $100. Oh, okay. Bottle of Jack materializes, etc. So about the third strip club, and I mean, this is going on 3:30 in the morning at this point. These places are all closed.
Right.
And I got these high rollers. We get pulled over. And I'm like, oh, sweet Jesus.
What cop pulls over a limo?
Well, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You want to see what's going on?
Nothing good happens after 2 a.m.
That's our rule. Nothing good happens after 2 a.m. So we get pulled over and I'm got my gear together and I jump out of the car and I got my suit on. And I look all professional. I go back,
hello, officer.
I pull over to the side of the road and I get out of the car.
My name's Jeeves.
Sir. How can I help you?
Officer, how you doing? That's great. And here's my badge. This kind of thing. And you do all the professional courtesy stuff. And he's like, so who you got in the back? And I'm like, I have no idea. Well, let's find out. I'm like, no. Well, yeah, I just want to run everybody in the back. You want to, but you're not allowed to.
Right. Yeah, because like a limo, we're not
separated.
They're not part of the driving experience, right?
They're cargo.
Right.
They're literally cargo. They are in their own world right now.
Right.
And I told the police officer, I was like, no, I said, you're gonna have to get a warrant. That's fine. You can do whatever you want. You can ask me to roll the windows down. I won't.
Right.
But
you're like, I'm cool. I'm the driver. So what do you need from me?
Here's my driver's license. Right. Here's my insurance card. Here's everything else.
You're cooperating
absolutely
as the driver.
And I'm the straightest arrow in the quiver.
Right.
And what's funny is this cop was like, well, roll the windows down. I'm like, no. Well, then one yeehaw in the back is like, I want to go out and talk to the cop. Oh, and this guy got out of the car and I was like, you're a dumbass.
Yeah, I had this handled, dude.
I totally had this.
Yeah, you were playing the probable
We
cause.
were doing it exactly right. And this guy gets out and is just like the sloppiest, but he's like the alpha in their group. He gets out and he basically invites the cop to go do anything, right? Like, I was like, oh, this is ugly. And I was like, please, please, please.
We don't have any more Coke left back here.
Oh, I will say the cop takes a cursory look at the back of the car. He runs a couple of social security numbers and I'm like, oh man, please, dude, just fuck off. And the cop looks at me and he's like, so where are you taking these guys? I'm like, wherever home is. And the cop's like, how long you been with these guys? I said, since about 9 p.m. And the cop's like, wow, bet you're really tired of this. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, I hope you're making good money. I'm like, I am. And I'm like, so did you give them a good story, for their friends? And he's like, yeah, I think you're cool. And he cuts me loose and I roll out and we go and I drop these guys off at their houses. That's what I'm supposed to. I end up getting back to my house after I dumped the car off and cleaned the car up. I ended up getting back at 5:30, 6 in the morning. And I get back home or I get back to the barn with the limo. I pull the box out of the back, the recycling container. It's insane what's in there. I mean, Holy shit, there were 4 people, Steve. 4 people. There were bottles for 40 people. There were bags of various different substances.
They dumped
everything. They dumped every goddamn thing. Nice. There was coke. There was weed. There was everything you could ever imagine back there. There was a purse. Somebody dumped their entire fucking purse. And I just left it on the counter for my boss. I was like, you can figure that shit out. I don't want any part of it. But that was the thing about being a limo driver is I'd only did that for a short period of time, like as a side gig.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you ever get a chance to talk to a limo driver, you should. These guys have really been through some shit. The shenanigans in a limo.
I wonder how many people a year die in the back of a limo. That's
pretty interesting.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is nobody's ever died in the back of a hearse. They all come pre-dead.
Pre-dead.
But I think limos are probably responsible for as many as ambulances.
I wonder if there's like limos out there that have the CPR machines in them. You know, just like clear.
Las Vegas limos all have fucking.
What do you call those fucking things? Defibrillators.
Yeah. That should be standard and pull it down. Yeah. It's not portable. It's wired it's hardwired into the system. It's ready to go in a moment's notice.
Narcan darts from the ceiling.
Yeah. I can only imagine poor limo drivers, what they got to go through. If any of our podcast listeners are limo drivers, call us with a story.
Yes.
Because that shit is golden.
There has to be good story. I mean, there has to be.
I'm going to give you guys a story just for fun.
Okay.
Just because this week, some of you know, I delivered a Vespa out to a guy who has owned 7 scooters before this. His name is Frank. And Frank has owned 5 Lambrettas and 2 Vespas or something like. But anyway, that's unimportant. But I get out to Frank's house, and Frank was a Cleveland police officer for almost 30 years.
Wow.
Right? And he did.
In what time period?
The good one. He was like from 1970 until 2000.
So he's laughing at the brutality that they're issuing now.
What's going on right now? But Frank was a Cleveland police officer, motor officer, but on the Fuji Rabbit scooters.
What?
Yeah. 1961 Fuji Rabbit. We had Fuji Rabbit motor scooters in Cleveland that we used for various different things, mostly writing parking tickets and shit like that. But him and his buddy were on this, that was their detail. That was what they had to do.
That's awesome.
But Frank has just, I mean, his whole history is brilliant. His scooter career is great. Frank's whole story, Frank was going to scooter rallies in 1960.
Is that the pictures you posted? Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So Frank was nice enough when I delivered the bike there. I was going to say the Cadillac came back, but that's a town car. Yeah. So Frank was nice enough that when I delivered his brand new Vespa, he brought out some of his pictures from 1960 through 1963 or so.
Amazing, yeah.
And he had all these pictures. And what killed me about Frank was Frank was a Cleveland cop for 30 years. He was in the Army and then he became a Cleveland cop. But when Frank would talk about his wife, the dude just fell apart. He just broke down. He loved his wife so much. And he's 81, right? And his wife just died last year.
And he just bought a scooter.
And he bought his 8th scooter.
Wow.
So his 7th scooter was still his 7th scooter's here now as a Bajaj, and he couldn't get it to work right. He bought one of those, he bought a third-hand Bajaj, 2002 4-stroke Bajaj Cheetah. But his 6th scooter, which he bought brand new, was a 1980 Vespa P200. And to give you an idea, the odometer quit working at 41,000 miles. Again, huh?
Yeah, you got to stop hitting the mic.
Yeah. So at 41,000 miles, his odometer quit working. He said he drove it for another 10 years after that.
So he's got and how many top ends did he have on this thing?
The original. Yeah.
So he has 60,000 miles on a 2-stroke scooter with one head.
Between 60 and 80,000 miles on the original motor that came from the factory from Vespa. And he rode it from where he lives in, Strongsville, North Royalton, Strongsville, all the way to Cleveland every day to go to work on the freeway.
The super secret is keep your original Vespa crank.
Right, exactly.
Because that one that came through the shop, the guy was going to Houston. I'm like, he went through 2 or 3 different top ends, but he had the original crank.
He's good to go.
And that bike had 75,000 miles.
That's right.
Wow.
And it's not joking. These motors will last a really, really long time. Replace the top end every 20,000 miles or whatever, you'll be fine. But so Frank's deal was just great. And he had this P200 out there. And this is one of those things when somebody tells you, like, my bike's got 80,000 miles on it, you're like, yeah, sure, whatever. When you see a Vespa with 80,000 miles on it, in 1980, it looks like it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the bottom of it was rusty. It was really bad. But like the rest of it, legit, like he had the original title. He had the original bill of sale, everything from when he bought the bike brand new. That's very interesting cat. And I got to give that guy, I mean, he's 81 years old. I hope to be in the same condition as Frank is when I'm 81 years old.
Yeah, man.
Because he's still riding. Like he bought that bike. I delivered it. He lives on a farm now. He fired it up and he just immediately went out in the field and just started riding in the grass. Like dude, like had his own scooter rally right there. 1-man scooter rally. Put his old 1961 Cleveland police helmet on, said Cleveland Police Department badge on the front.
Really?
Yeah. And rode the fucking Vespa.
That was in the picture.
The dude is amazingly hardcore.
How many acres does he have?
What's that?
How many acres does he have?
Not enough.
Oh.
Yeah, it's rather small and Spartan. He's got a pond that used to be big and it keeps getting smaller every year because he's getting older. He's not keeping it cut back.
Yeah.
But Frank, God damn it. So I throw that up on our Facebook and put it up. I met this guy Frank and the whole deal. Well, I guess the day after I post that up, Frank went somewhere on his brand new Vespa, and somebody stopped and was like, "You're Frank."
He was stoked.
Frank got social media'd. First time in his life he'd been social media'd. He's like, "I saw pictures of you and your wife and your Vespas and your Lambrettas and the whole deal." And Frank was like, so he called me and he was in a state of panic because he was kind of like, some dude stopped me in the Metro Parks and told me he saw pictures of my bike and everything else, and I'm Frank. And I was like, yeah, dude. And he's like, I'm famous. And I'm like, hell yeah, not really famous.
Yeah.
You know, I have 3,000 people or
famous.
something.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, that's crazy. He goes, I got more stories for you. And I was like, Frank, I will be happy to hear your stories.
Yeah.
So he's a really cool guy.
What's the chance we can get Frank on the podcast?
Oh, I think it's pretty good.
Oh,
but Frank's, okay, I will warn you guys. And I'm going to say this now. Frank can be a little hard to listen to because Frank's really excited. And so when Frank's really excited, he fires at you pretty quick.
Dude, if I'm 81 years old and I wake up every day, I'm going to be really fucking excited.
You're going to be real fucking excited. I'm sad that Chris Smith isn't here right now because I have musings from Rand.
Oh, damn. All right.
Oh, damn, indeed.
Hello, Rand.
Hello, Rand. So what you guys don't know is that last week after the podcast.
So this is Rand just bought his Z900.
Yeah. Right. So Rand last week, just right after our podcast. I mean, had he been a little bit earlier, he'd have been in business. But he wasn't. And so Rand just blew my shit up. I mean, blew my shit up. And God love him. But it started last week at our time. I'm going to call it. Are you ready? All right, here we go. I'm going to say that it was, oh shit, it goes back a ways. Last Saturday, starting at 1:40 hours. Okay, so 1:40 a.m.
Our time or his time?
Our time.
All right,
so we had a podcast Friday night that lasted until Saturday morning.
Yeah, right, exactly. So he asked us a question about points. That's great. All right. Hey, dude. And so what we got going on, this is fantastic. He's like, a child whose first movie magic occurred when their utterly sweet parents took them to the theater to see Star Wars for no goddamn good reason that I can quantify, but for pure love. I love you, Mom and Dad. Or fuck it. I'm an ass. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Star Wars in the theater was the most pure magic a boy of 7 or 8 could ever enjoy in the 70s, and any bullshit I was thinking of saying right now melts into nothing compared. So, Phil, sorry, I don't know why I thought this was something I needed to talk about to you guys. but Star Wars. It was a good story, right? I can deal with a lot of stuff, but New Hope? Well, what about pinball machines and pizza restaurants? Remember when going out to get pizza was a banner event? I can remember my young life by the movies I saw as a child. Through my young adult life, only one venue, Saddlebike Plaza, El Toro, California. I'd have to ride my bike about 5 miles over the I-5 to get to it. I had everything a young boy would enjoy, including a huge toy store called something I can't even find anymore. It must be a toy store, right? The toy store, which no longer exists, had everything. I would wander the aisles, and there were two things that haunted me as a poor boy with no money and parents that, looking back, were doing their absolute best. Fucking G.I. Joe. And worst, the Tamiya models.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Phil. What the fuck does this have to do with motorcycles? Absolutely nothing. Don't talk about it. Getting it out is therapy for me, and I don't care if you mention it or not. You and I are the same age, and I think you can relate. Guys, remember when pizza was a non-corporate event? He goes, talk about when you were kids and your parents would take you and your friends out to the movie or some sweet-ass movie and then go to the arcade or pizza place, and the most magical moment was when they handed you a roll of quarters and said, go have fun. Best time of my life. And he's like, Phil, just looked at what I've been sending you. Please, this is just drunk Rand, stream of consciousness. You do not need to talk about it on the podcast.
Oops.
Oop. Okay, that's fine. And then said, Sleepy Cinch, wheelie school in the Northwest. I want to coordinate a school where you teach me and my coworkers how to wheelie. That's a horrible idea. Horrible. I've been to wheelie school. Trust a professional.
Yeah.
Pay your money. Go to wheelie school. It's awesome fun. You will love it. It's great. Okay. Anyway, move on. So this is now coming in Saturday at 07:15.
My buddy went to wheelie school. He came back with no kneecaps, just so you know.
Did he go to the Starboys one?
It was some out to California.
Oh, really?
Oh, no. Because they used to do them over at Thompson Dragway.
Yeah.
And they had the bikes with the wheel sticking out the back and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, they did, I mean, they successfully got a lot of guys doing wheelies. So
yeah, I did one, so yeah. I loved it.
Yeah.
How did he lose his knees?
Last day of the wheelie school.
Yeah.
Not wearing really, he went out there with like
jeans,
leather pant, they were leather, but they weren't riding leather pants and everything, but they still let him take the class. So he did really well for the whole thing, but it was like the last day or whatever, and it went over, and he, it was like, whoa, and he ended up, he rode the bike out, and ended up on dragged his knees. And just, I mean, it was like down. Peeled him.
All right, so here he comes back. He's, what a dick I am. I'm back again. Hey, I took my BMW GS up in the shit and had motocross people tell me I'm stupid. I crashed a couple of times, but fuck them, I had a great time. Me and my buddies were on working 600-pound bikes up on forest trails. We eventually aired down our tires. But we still crashed, and fuck you. I can still go to Starbucks on my GS and get a coffee and fuck you up with my stories. You know, the GS Starbucks shit is really messed up. I've taken my big fat GS with all the luggage up to places that nobody else has considered. But because people talk shit about BMW adventure riders all the time, I feel stigmatized all the time. I've heard you guys talk shit. So when I want some coffee, I'm like, I can't go to Starbucks because that's the big joke, right? But Starbucks are at every fucking corner. So fuck you guys that make fun of me. I just want some coffee so I can BM before going on trails. What the fuck? Is it a hashtag? Seriously, stop talking shit about BMW riders just going to Starbucks. Who cares if that's the case? At least they're buying bikes and supporting the industry. Do we really want to make fun of them? Hashtag don't be a dick is how that works. And then he gives us some pictures of him and his BMW buddies on some like straight up some shit, right? Big smile, big cheesy smile from Rand and his BMWs. That's all good. And he says 3 out of 4 people on BMWs are still having a great time on GS bikes because one of them's busted up. The Starbucks BMW R1200 GS thing really pisses me off. It's a generalization that doesn't help the motorcycle industry in general. Also, I crashed hard twice in some shitty soft sand on my GS last weekend. That was after drinking cowboy coffee and shitting in a vault toilet. Then I had some dudes in a $30,000 side-by-side tell me, hey man, wrong bike for these trails. Grab my tires with his hand and tell me what to air down to and mock me. Fuck everyone. Can't I just ride trail, crash, lick my wounds, and walk away with lessons learned without being taught a lesson? Fuck it.
It's not like you ask him to haul him home or anything.
Exactly. To my own detriment and my age, I hate being told how to do stuff. Do you guys feel the same way? I swear it gets tougher with age. I did get my Starbucks GS up to 100 miles per hour on some forest roads. Hashtag fuck everybody. Okay, I'll stop being bitter.
Wow.
No, you won't.
Hammocks. So awesome. I tried them for the first time on this trip. Easy to pack in your Starbucks adventure bike and very comfy. Do some research and definitely get a sleeping bag that is rated for a temperature that is colder than you'd expect. Here's my little camp setup. And he's a really good camp setup with a hammock and everything else. Good to go. Anyway, not every guy in a...
for yuppies.
Anyway, not every guy in a BMW GS is just posing. Please give us the benefit of the doubt. What's the harm? We buy motorcycles and motorcycle gear from merchants that help make the industry. Why make fun of us? That said, my Z900 RRS. What a difference.
We don't have to make fun of you. You're doing it for us.
I'm a really big guy. You've seen me. Sorry. Skip all my shit above. I'm drunk and rambling. Here's the question. What's the lightest bike that I can ride 150 miles on the highway and crash in the dirt trails? I think what he's saying is the lightest bike you can ride on the freeway, but also fuck around in the dirt on.
I would say it's not going to be around until next year, but the Yamaha Tenere 700 is the shit.
Yeah, people seem to really like that.
It is. It's Yamaha reliable. It's light-ish.
A KLX 250 can kind of do freeway and it can kind of do trails too. Yeah. So, but I mean, Rand's a big dude.
That's a dildo rule. Anything's a dildo if you're brave enough.
That's right. I mean, if you're brave enough. So here we go. By the way, after crashing a couple of times and it being upside down, my Starbucks GS started right up after making horrible sounds because I couldn't get to the cutoff switch right away. Yep, the oil's not where it should be.
No.
But it said, fuck you, podcast bitches. I was designed to lick my wounds outside of Starbucks parking lots. Sorry, I'm just fucking tired of people that talk shit because it's an easy target. It's a big target.
He's really bothered about this.
Well, yeah, all right. We want people to ride, right? So stop talking shit about bikes they want. Encouragement. That should be everyone's motto, not classification, not stupid opinions, just encouragement. Ride two wheels. The USA would be a better place, by the way. I'm totally into the old Coleman camp items.
Me too.
Yeah, right on. What a dark rabbit hole that's turned out to be. My point is the motorcycle industry is bad. There he goes.
He was doing an Indian Larry.
He was doing an Indian Larry. That's right.
Made the light.
Yeah, he did make the light, just fucking barely. He did. He got that thing on orange. You and me should not talk down to anyone or talk shit about any style of riding. If a guy wants to ride a Shadow Arrow, fuck yeah, do it.
What's wrong with that?
Getting into motorcycles is intimidating. Don't be the asshole that makes it harder by your opinions of what is cool and what isn't. Seriously, the sun is coming up and I just want to go to bed. But this GS Starbucks issue really upsets me. You don't know everyone's situation. Me and other folks have worked really hard. I grew up in an apartment in California. I didn't have a couple of acres to ride at 50. Nobody did, but I wanted to. So life happens and shit changes, but that urge to explore is still that. But you have to go to work. If a fucking engineer that grew up in poverty and just wants to have a nice cup of coffee, what's the problem? You don't know their story.
Rand, calm down. Have a fucking cup of coffee.
But you sure are quick to judge or make them feel like posers. Sad, really sad. I worked so goddamn hard to pull myself out of debt. When I finally got out of debt, I bought a bike. Then I heard all this petty Starbucks shit. Whatever. I'm keeping tabs. No, I'm not. I need to go to bed. Much love.
He does realize that we make fun of every style of motorcycle.
Yes, we do. And then, so this is the next day.
Have you heard of Dunkin Donuts?
Monday. We're right across the street right now. So Monday, he writes, I sure can be a defensive dick when I drink all night. Saturday sure did suck. Oh, wow. I was like, wow, I just checked the Patreon messages and I was like, 56 new messages. Holy hell. Your message is excellent, though, and it brings up some great points about tribalism in the motorcycle world. I'm definitely going to read it in this week's podcast, and I think it'll spark a good debate. Yeah, dude. Yes, you're right. We only shit on what we shit on.
I'd like to point this out, that Rand was out there riding a motorcycle, and he was out there riding it in the shit, albeit he went to fucking Starbucks first. I wasn't riding a motorcycle, so really I have no fun, no real basis to poke fun, but yet I still will.
Right, exactly.
But I don't think anybody, when they're talking about the Starbucks riders, nobody's talking about you. You went on fire roads.
Right.
Like they're talking about the guy that buys the 2020 GSA with all the brand new stuff, pays $29,000 for it, and then is scared to ride it.
And then takes off all the BMW stuff and puts on SWMO Tech stuff.
Right.
And like makes it like nth degree, awesome, insane, impossible bike. and then literally never goes anywhere with Starbucks on it.
And that's the thing is like, when you start adding metal aluminum skid plates because, it's cool and all this other stuff to protect your final gear drive from a rock bash.
That will never happen.
Yeah, and you're 8 miles to Starbucks. That's what they're talking about.
And we have those customers here. I work on their bikes. We have guys whose bikes only do one thing, and that's transport aluminum boxes from point A to point B that are usually full of whatever they got at like Costco.
Right.
But it's no different than, you see a jacked up mud truck that has huge tires on it, but it's so clean. It's a show truck.
Perfectly clean.
And you know this thing is never going to touch mud.
Well, that's the whole bro truck movement that they got going on now with like, they can hit the button and it goes up 15 feet and it has scissoring things underneath it and all this stuff. You can't take that shit off road. And if you do, it ain't lasting very long, It's weird.
And it is that thing. Like, we will only fuck with people that are Starbucks GS enthusiasts, but we'll also fuck with the guys that are like, the poser Sons of Anarchy wannabes.
Well, how about this? Let's even take it away from motorcycles and the bicycles. Back when I raced bicycles, you guys all know Chagrin Falls. If you don't know what Chagrin Falls is, it's a ski town without ski. That's what it is. It's it's a bunch of rich people.
It's like Vail, Colorado, with no mountain.
No mountain. Yeah, it's just rich people doing rich things and whatever.
It's rich people doing rich shit.
And so, we would meet at the Starbucks there, and then we'd go on a 130-mile bike ride.
Right.
But then there would be other guys that had the $10,000 Cervelo, like whatever the brand new bike was, and their ride was 4 miles.
Right.
And they just had their mocha cappuccino and they had all their gear on. And
they just went there to dress like Greg LeMond and sip cappuccino.
Right. But so the point of that is that,
they wear their yellow jersey.
If you are actually a rider, nobody, like, who's making fun of you? You're making fun of yourself.
Oh, exactly.
Get out of your head, dude.
Right.
Like, you just sent pictures to Phil of you riding in the shit.
He's rocking it out, dude. He's totally
You're an
rocking
original
it out.
rider. Now, as a person that does that, you should make fun of the GS that's perfectly clean at Starbucks.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying Rand should, not just us.
Oh, no, Rand should. Yeah.
But he should because he's a real rider. He did his thing.
Absolutely. And that's, ultimately what I'm give a shit about is, I don't ride enough because this year especially, I've been too fucking busy to go do any real riding. My adventure riding happens in the 14-mile commute on the way home.
And this is, you just hit a really good point. So what defines a motorcyclist, right?
Right. That's what one of our podcast listeners said. He goes, are you bikers?
Right. And so
do you call yourself a biker?
Here's the thing. Does the person that bought a Vespa, a 50cc Vespa or whatever they have, and the only time they can get out is once a week, but they enjoy the fuck out of that hour that they ride it? That's a biker to me.
That's a biker.
Yeah. I don't think there is a definition to it.
And that's the hard thing is, in our culture in particular, the United States, biker means one thing. And I tend to look at more of a European definition of biker where it's like, everything I do is bike related.
Right.
Like my whole fucking world is bike related. I don't buy a 4-wheeled vehicle until I think about, can I put a bike in the back of it?
Right.
Like that's my world. There's 2 pickup trucks sitting in the parking lot across the street. One has a bike in the back of it, and the other one has the crates that bikes come in. So fuck you.
Right.
We can't get more authentic than that. I spent my entire week doing what? Building and uncrating bikes.
Right.
My whole bloodstream runs on bikes. My whole 5 human beings in this building get their livelihood based on motorcycles.
Right.
Like these people can't pay their bills and their families can't eat if they're not doing motorcycle shit.
But Phil, you haven't ridden 800 miles this week, so I don't believe you're a motorcyclist.
Right.
So I guess with all due respect, you have every right to make fun of anybody you want to.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's because I keep on working on y'all's bikes, man.
That was a chick. And that
was a chick on a Sportster that was cafe'd out.
She was surly.
Yeah, she was a surly girl. She was a surly girl on her cafe'd out Sportster.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things like we do here. We work on, you look 15 feet inside of our front door. What do we got? We have a giant goddamn Harley Davidson, Road Glide right there. So the first bike that's in the service department's a Road Glide. Right in front of that is the giant Suzuki Boulevard version of a Road Glide.
I've never seen that so packed in my life.
Oh my God. Our shop is our shop right now is insanely packed. And we are united.
We should be working on bikes right now.
We should be working on bikes. Well, last week after the podcast, what we did when the podcast was over is we went into the garage here and we troubleshot a Rebel. So, Steve had brought a Rebel in for us to sell for him. And we sold the Rebel, but then it was starting to have an electrical problem.
It boomeranged.
So this bike that we'd sold that Steve was like, it's great, Phil, everything works kick ass. It's awesome. Well, we sold it out and the person took it home. And this is a $1,200 bike. on its very best day. It might be a $400 bike, but in this market, it's a $1,200 bike.
Right.
But it boomeranged. And so while we were all done drinking and put the podcast table away, we folded into the shop here and we started stabbing his motorcycle with screwdrivers, literally stabbing it with screwdrivers. The Gerber tools all snapped out at the same time in unison, and fuses got stabbed. And eventually...
out comes the meter.
Right. Out comes the meter. And 4 idiots finally figured out what the problem was.
Which was?
One wire going to the right rear turn signal.
Really?
Yeah. So one wire going into the right rear turn signal was chafing on the metal frame, the metal fender. So a turn signal wire was chafing. So anytime you would activate the turn signal, it was a dead short.
Oh, shit.
And these Rebels had glass fuses. So the glass fuse presented good. Like optically, it looked good.
Okay.
And when we put a meter across the top and the bottom of it, it tested good with a meter.
Huh.
But I noticed when I took my Gerber tool and bridged the fuse holder, top and bottom, which you can do, don't worry, you won't shock yourself. Then all of a sudden, everything worked. So what had happened is that little short, that very, very minor short circuit in the right rear turn signal, where the hot wire went through the bodywork into the lightly cobbled together, not the original factory turn signal, it was enough to burn the fuse out ever so slightly.
Wow.
They did it in a weird way. It was like right on in the metal, inside the metal cap.
Yeah.
So you couldn't see where it
So the fuse looked beautiful. Right. And if you put a meter on it, it still tested. But at anything over a minor load of a meter, it wouldn't carry it.
So what did they like half the filament?
It half burned out.
Okay.
Yeah, it kind of half burned out.
Gotcha.
It crapped out.
Yeah.
So
it was like carbon, you know.
Yeah. So of course, what do I do is I immediately go back and replace the 10 amp fuse with a 30 amp fuse.
As you do.
Because more is better. And when I do that, then I was like, oh, everything works again. Great.
Eagles flew down.
Yeah, it was perfect. Well, except for the fact that the wire in the fuse was thicker than the wire in the turn signal at that point.
Right.
So now the turn signal is going to catch on fire.
Wow, that's a really bright turn. Oh shit.
Well, we've moved the short. We've moved the short from the fuse block to the fender.
Nice.
Right.
Okay.
So how come when my wife touches the fender, she electrocutes herself? 30 amp fuse. Go figure.
You don't really normally worry about electrocuting yourself on 12 volt stuff and everything. Exactly. Except like I do some work where I'm sweating my balls off outside on a car or something, and I lean over and like my arm touches this. I'm soaked in sweat. My belly touches a battery terminal, and all of a sudden I'm like, and I don't notice at first. And then all of a sudden I'm like, ow, what the fuck is going on?
You're being electrocuted.
Being electrocuted.
I've gone to clubs where you pay for that.
I pinched a nerve in my back a couple weeks ago, and my wife has this thing called the TENS unit.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the fuck it was, right? So I stick these things on my back, and I'm like,
turn it up to 10.
Well, that's what I did. I turn it on and nothing happens. So I'm like, huh. I go, and all of a sudden my body's like, and I started pissing myself. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on, man? And then I was shocking myself so bad I couldn't turn the fucking thing off. So finally I ripped the wires off the things and it stopped. But I had no idea what that thing does. And apparently it electrocutes the shit out of you.
If you spend a weekend with a TENS unit, you'll figure out where to put the pads.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. You spend a weekend with a TENS unit. Yeah. There's nobody else. Just you and the TENS unit for a weekend, and you will figure out exactly where to put the pads.
Very nice.
And then you'll shave those areas.
If they're not already shaved.
Exactly. And then you'll be good to go.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
And then you'll be like, I need to buy another one of these. And then you'll be like, 9-volt batteries are cool. Yeah, that's it.
Wait, if I stick a pad on me and a pad on her.
Oh, fun with
build a little
units.
Circuit here.
Yeah,
but
that'd be all right.
It was funny because we did actual troubleshooting and fixed the thing during the podcast, so the customer benefited from that. But it is very much, I mean, for what we do. This week, we've worked on every kind of motorcycle there is. We've worked on Ural this week. We've worked on Harleys this week. We've worked on Ducatis this week. Like, we've worked on 40 different motorcycles this week. And it's very funny sometimes when I come out and see our line at the shop here. And I'm like looking at the row and I'm like, wow, we are like the United Colors of Benetton when it comes to motorcycles. It's just...
You should be like the
Serval, man.
You should be like the UN and have all the all the flags.
That's true. We could do all the flags across the front for every type of motorcycle we service. Yeah.
Have you had any, remember like many months ago, we talked about all the problems with the Harley motors?
Yeah.
Have you had any of those come in since, people are buying all this shit?
Yeah, people are buying a lot of really, really bikes that shouldn't be bought. People are taking a lot of chances. But we've had 2 that we turned away only because we don't have the time right now to do that kind of work because we have a lot of work lined up. So we are putting some people on hold.
You can't scatter bikes right now.
Right. That's exactly right. We don't have the time to scatter bikes. We don't have the time to put something up on like a 3-month, like parts supplies right now are really, really sketchy. So if you've got a bike that comes in and you end up putting that thing on a lift and it clogs a lift up for 3 or 4 weeks, you're fucked.
Yeah.
So you got to be more aware. It's more like triage. If you think about it like military medical triage, we're looking at shit that we can get in, done, and out. We don't want something that's going to get in and then sit on a lift because we're waiting on parts that are on a 4-week back order.
Right.
So it's a very, very weird time right now. And we've had some weird back orders. Like we've got the cooling fan on a Suzuki Boulevard, modernish. Would you believe that's a $600 cooling fan?
What?
It's a fan, dude. It doesn't do anything special. It's a fan.
Just go tear apart a computer and grab the fan out of that.
Yeah. However, here's the thing. It's got to be a very certain shape because the radiator on a Suzuki Boulevard has to be invisible because it has to look like a Harley.
Yeah.
So the radiator's not allowed to actually be visible by human eyes.
It's right in the front of the frame.
It's right between the 2 frame rails.
Yep.
And so the fan that's in there is super narrow, super small, and it can only be a certain size. And when the guy hit an animal, and the animal that he hit came up and whacked the radiator and smooshed the fan.
Right.
So he didn't know this, but his fan had quit running. So the fan was jammed up. So the fan was jammed up and burned up. So he wondered why his bike was overheating. Well, the fan couldn't kick on because the fan couldn't move.
Right.
Because, Rodentia had smooshed the fucking radiator into it. And he figured once the animal wasn't there anymore, the problem was solved. Well, so we finally figure out.
I'm not a very big fan of that situation.
No. That situation sucks and blows. So we looked the fan up for the guy, and I was like, Suzuki wants $600 for this fucking fan. So we told him, and we're like, look, it's probably better for you if you find the fan somewhere else and go for it.
Yeah.
No. So we've waited over 4 weeks for this fucking fan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, I'd have been at Micro Center trying every fucking computer thing that they had. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at an email. I ordered some parts for the Yamaha early AM, Sunday, Monday morning.
Yeah.
The shift arm that I need, the critical piece that I need for it, not available till October 8th.
Wow.
That's fucked up.
But like I said, that's everything.
Shit. So October 8th. Damn.
I dropped my glasses and they dropped straight down onto the cement. So I have all these little fucking scratch holes and stuff. So I ordered 2 pairs of glasses because I wanted one for something that I could wear under my helmet and then something for work. And they're back ordered for 5 weeks.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, I need to see. Like, can we do something about this? Like, I need some glasses. And they're like, yeah, nothing we can do. Sorry. It's crazy.
Being able to see would be a good thing.
What shift arm, like when you say shift arm, what are you talking about? The shifter?
Well, I mean, it's on this bike, there's where the shaft comes out of the transmission.
Yeah, there's a little nub.
An arm, and then there's a linkage that
yeah.
goes over to the shifter. So it's the actual arm where it comes out of the
I got rid of all my CS5 stuff, but I'll look around and see if I have anything.
That'd be awesome.
Maybe because I know at one point I did have a little.
Couple months to cancel it.
I had a little box of gears and everything because I exploded a motor, and if there's anything like that, I'll see if maybe I have that.
Awesome.
Yeah, very nice.
Because I had 2 of those at one point. That's a really cool bike. We'll talk a little bit about the CS5. So yours is what year is yours? A 72?
72.
Mine was also a 72. Mine was in the original livery, that magenta, purple, and white. And I think my buddy Bruce might have a tank, the original tank, if you're interested in that. I could talk to him.
No, I cleaned the tank. It came out pretty good. It was really rusty, but it came out pretty nice.
That bike is rated at, I think, 23 horsepower or something like that.
22 or 23, right?
Yep. At top speed, according to the manual, is 80 mile an hour. 2 twin cylinder, 2-stroke, 5-port. It's a port, obviously port induction. And that was a pretty cool bike. I rode mine in the Lake Erie Loop the one year, and I did complete a full 650 miles in one day. It burnt a ton of gas. I had my brothers following me with race gas, and we burnt through 15 gallons just for starters, and then we had to stop and pull over. It was not running extremely good by the end of it. I don't know if I had just blown the seals out. I know at one point after that, I took the top end off, and there are big rubber O-ring seals that go around the crank where the bearings are on either side of it. And I found there was a piece of that was missing. And so and it was right where one of the transfer ports are. Of course, being McElfresh, I just fucking RTV'd the shit out of it and put it back together, but, it was a great bike. Like first gear wheelies, not too much of a problem if you get on it. I mean, it's very light compared to, say a CB200.
Right.
It's much lighter, and like you can almost
under
just
300 pounds.
Yeah,
it's a real light bike. Yeah.
I mean, so wick up the throttle a little bit, let off, and then crack it, and it'll stand right up. Sometimes second, a little bit in third if you hit that right hump in the pavement.
But I have another concern with it too. The transmission oil, and it's a wet clutch. Is empty.
Really?
So I've got to oil that up and see if it's leaking or what's going on.
Definitely fill that up, because if your transmission is leaking through, you're burning your oil up. That's what's happening.
So what Phil's talking about is transmission fluid leaking through into the crankcase.
Into the crankcase.
So not out onto the ground, but that.
So you've got a main seal, and the main seal in that bike does separate your transmission oil from your crankcase, and so you will create a vacuum there. And it will pull oil through on that motor, and you will starve yourself out of transmission fluid. It all goes out the tail.
My TOS 250, it used to turn the transmission fluid into gray pudding.
Yep.
I mean, you change it, and then if you leave it sit for a while, it turned back into oil again.
Oh, wow.
But you'd ride it, and I'd pull the dipstick out, and it was just gray pudding from
hydrocarbons,
the air fuel mixture percolating, just whipping it was weird.
Yeah,
I haven't had a two-stroke motorcycle before. I also noticed there's a lot of oil coming out of the exhaust pipes.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You're going to have that. You do.
And that could be your transmission oil too.
At some point, you want to probably pull your baffles out and decoke them. Maybe take them and throw them in a fire and burn them out and make sure all the little holes are open in them and stuff.
The biggest thing is, if you're with any two-stroke bikes, whether it's piston ported or rotary valve, it doesn't matter. But if you're pulling your transmission oil out, if your transmission oil is going away, if you are running low on transmission oil, there's really only one place it's going. If it's not leaving a giant puddle in your garage, that means it's going out the tailpipes. So where it's doing is it's getting pulled into the bottom half. So if you're in a two-stroke situation, let's just call our top end and bottom end are the two areas we're going to talk about. And where it will do is, if the seal is shot, because they're rubber seals and they get old and they dry out. So if the seal's shot in the bottom end, it'll actually pull oil into the bottom end. And where that'll be is it'll pull it, and it will never get a chance to burn it. It'll pull it into the webs and the bottom end of the crank, and it'll push it right out the exhaust valve.
Through the ports.
It'll present on a piece of paper behind your tailpipes as unburnt oil. It'll be oily. You can touch it with your hand and rub it. It's actually oil. It's not smoke. So smoke on the front end usually indicates over-rich mixture. You get tons of smoke out the tailpipe. There's a lot of reasons that can happen. You got fuel leaking down in the cylinders through the carburetors because the floats are stuck open, whatever. You've got too much oil coming in if you have an injected bike. So
you got to calibrate your injector, and you have to prime your injector.
Yep.
There's a little screw you take out, you drip that
before
out.
I started, I read the procedure.
There's marks and stuff like that. So.
It's in the owner's manual on your bike.
Right.
And then, so if you're seeing smoke, that's on the top end. If you're seeing oil spray, that's on the bottom end. And
there was no oil spraying out today, but then there's no oil in the transmission.
You got to figure it out.
Eventually, when your bike quits leaking, all the problems are
it's
solved.
Not necessarily uncommon to have a little bit of wet oil coming out the pipe. I mean, I'd rather have that than to be totally bone dry.
Exactly. Right. And so that's that game of averages.
Do you remember when we were behind that Harley, when we were on that ride the one day, and that one pipe was just white as fuck and the other one was black? And you always tell stuff about things.
Right.
Yeah.
But you mentioned horsepower. I got into a rabbit hole. I was waiting for something to render at work today, and I had nothing to do, so I was looking at the YouTube. And the dude put a CT or a Trail 70 on a dyno.
Oh.
What do you think it made?
Oh, I'm going to guess
4.5 horsepower.
Yeah, 5.
2.9 horsepower.
2.9 horsepower at the rear tire.
Yeah.
Wow.
So some guy posted that video to the clone pages for the Grom clones.
Yeah.
Because they're like, everybody complains about how slow they are, and they're like, well, the real one has 2.9 horsepower.
2.9 horsepower.
So the clones probably have 2. So
the real one has 2.9. Oh, 2.9 horsepower. But that's just terrifying.
But at the same time, the guy was using a car dyno, so
so you can't spin the roller.
Yeah.
Realistically, I've done a lot of stuff with dynos, and you have to be able to spin the roller.
Yeah,
if you can't run, if you're running a 400-pound roller and you've got this CT70 there, you're probably not going to get a good reading. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy was funny. He was holding the throttle up. He was shifting with his hand like this. And,
I mean, even if he straps that thing down with an inch of its life so the tire's like flat on that roller, he's probably not going to get a good run.
Right.
Yeah, that's tough. But I can totally see where he's coming from.
But the thing that kind of enlightened me, though, it doesn't matter if it was 2 or 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
So everybody always, there's people that are horsepower hounds.
Yeah.
But dude, that 4 horsepower is still the funnest horsepower you're going to have in the history of fucking fun.
I mean, John's riding around a 70cc last weekend here in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And just, I was surprised. I mean, actually surprised that it wasn't being damaged. No. Like the bike was not just not being damaged, it was totally doing its job.
You should have seen us at Bruce's house when I still had the 4-wheeler. He was on the 80. At one point I was afraid his butt was going to swallow it. But at the same time, it's cruising around, it's mowing shit down. It's amazing.
Yeah. Piper's little quad runner is hilarious, man.
It is funny.
That thing will do 50 mile an hour. No, I mean, we were at Mid-Ohio and he was on a buddy or whatever, and I was leading people around. And we went down the back straight, towards the back area.
Back way,
I was cooking pretty good. I'm
I was actually nervous because if you get that thing into a wiggle, you're not getting out of it.
No. I mean, and I've got one of the tie rods is a little bit loose. It's like clunk, 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 and no suspension, just. Right. But it's incredibly.
Just let it float along. Let it do its thing. Yeah,
it goes. Way too fast for.
Way too fast for its own good.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah. That's fun.
Oh,
I don't know. Anybody else got anything else?
No.
That's pretty fair. I think it's fair. All right, guys. Well, welcome to another Cleveland podcast.
Outdoor podcast.
It was, I will say this. Friday night, a lot more activity than Thursday night.
Yeah, we didn't get
pretty mellow.
We didn't get any LED parades.
No, we didn't. It's been pretty chill.
Pretty chill. Yeah.
It's been a very, very chill night.
A lot of walking. Thursday's a walking day around here.
This is a walking neighborhood. Yeah. So that is the strange thing about this part of town that a lot of folks do. A lot of folks here will walk. And it's funny. I mean, when we first moved in here 5 years ago, I was like, we have a lot of, but it's just random people. That's just how they're getting
walking
around.
Down to Walgreens.
So this neighborhood's like more Lakewood than Lakewood.
It is. It's very Lakewood. It's a very
you got this strip. What's all this? The whole strip is
this whole strip is stuff. I mean, there's everything down there, and then there's Walgreens and Marks and like all the convenience places and drugstores and shit like that,
and bars
and bars, and people live. So just to our east is hundreds of streets that have nothing but single family homes on them. So,
and then even further down there is the most entertaining area in Cleveland, or at least one of them. It gets fun way down the road.
I'm going to tell you that when you get to about where our first shop was at 126 at West 122nd Lorraine, and where James lives, which is like 135th in Lorraine.
Yeah, like
that whole area between there. That's sort of I worked at a couple of different companies that worked down there. I've spent a lot of time in that neighborhood, and Mi Pueblo was our taco shop, and it was like the greatest taco shop ever. It was the best. And being down there, it is an Arabic neighborhood, a Latino neighborhood, a white neighborhood, and just West Park.
Mm-hmm.
And there was never a dull moment.
No.
Never. I mean, just never. And like across the street, we had a theater where they still did wrestling matches, like wrestling.
Yeah.
Like proper fucking like low budget WWE shit would be in there 3-4 nights a week. And then 2 nights a week would be like a hip hop DJ.
Yeah, right.
And you just see like people come out of there just like bloodied and all fucked up. And you're like, what happened? You're like, no, though, that's the prop blood from the wrestlers.
Right.
You're like, oh, okay. All right. That makes sense.
I had back in the day, this is like 1988 or 9 or something like that. I went to a Skinny Puppy show.
Yeah.
And I was in the front row, and the dude was throwing blood on everything. And
all going crazy.
And I got pulled over on the way home.
Oh, shit.
And the cop's like, so you're all covered in blood. And we're like, long story. Let me tell you. And, you know, that was an interesting.
It was a great show.
Yeah, great show.
We go to the Addicts shows, punk rock band, the Addicts. We go every time they come through town, and that is like confetti and glitter bombs and shit like that. There you go.
Have you seen the price
Sucker
of the
Punch
choppers?
Sally.
That's like definitely Sucker Punch Sally, Jesse James kind of thing.
Right now on Facebook Marketplace,
They call this Pro Street. Yeah.
there are at least 4
Yeah.
custom SNS 113 motor $5,000.
Oh yeah, yeah.
$4,000.
There's nothing. That has dropped. Nothing's dropped like that.
No.
Nothing has dropped like that. No. There's no segment of the motorcycle industry that is taken in the ass harder than that stuff. It's terrible.
I can't imagine though. Can you imagine spending like $35,000 on something and then you can't get $5,000 for it? And it's not even beat up. It's not even like broken.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's the way it looked when you opened the crate or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it did the day you got it home.
When Paul Sr. dropped it off.
And it's just, they don't hold their value. Nobody wants them. Nobody will touch that shit.
So it took how many years for people to figure out that they are terrible fucking bikes?
No, I don't know, dude. But I mean, we're 2020 right now, and that shit was blowing up in 2004.
Yeah. So it's not
15 years, maybe 10 for that shit to come full circle. We're still convinced that the Dyna is the official bike of prison. Like, we've had 3 of them come into the shop this week, and all 3 of them that came in the shop, they have all been dipped in Sons of Anarchy. So they all have like the little tiny T-bar handlebars and the bullet fairing, which looks ridiculous.
It does,
because you got these rabbit ear handlebars sticking up about 7 inches above.
They have the big
an MGO fairing. You're like, what is that doing?
Yeah.
And, you know, all the various different stickers, you know, on the bike. It's got a very intricate collection of stickers on the machine. But you look at the Dyna and you're like, those front forks weigh 1,000 pounds. And you've got a giant 21-inch wheel out there. And it's like, oh, this thing. And I take it out for a test ride. I'm like, oh, this bike sucks. It sucks to ride. It's no fun at all.
I finally was next to, on the highway, one of the baggers with the 36-inch front wheel.
A donk.
Yeah, a donk bagger, whatever. Yeah. And when you're on 271 coming from Menor going toward Cleveland Heights, there's the area where like 2 comes into it or whatever.
It's a spur.
And there's a bump.
Oh, yeah.
And this dude hit the bump. Yeah. And there's no suspension on those bikes, man. This dude's front wheel, he was like,
yeah, it was a rodeo show.
Oh, it was amazing.
Because he's got a tire that thick.
Yeah.
And I mean, 36-inch wheel.
And the thing is the fender was this far, like the top of the fender.
Everything's the interference fit.
Yeah, it's like 1 inch to hits the.
It's designed to be like a Hot Wheels car. Like, it looks great, but it's totally impractical for actual riding applications.
Terrible.
I rode 3 Dynas this week, and all 3 Dynas I rode this week were just like, oh my God, man. Like, and I do ride a lot of Harley Davidsons. I probably rode 7 Harleys this week alone, just test riding shit that we worked on.
Right.
The Dynas in particular, these bikes are all just like, oh man, like, it is a tribute to like jail. It is truly like, it is just this thing. Like, if you want to send the message that you're going to jail, you've been to jail, or you're curious, jail curious, you probably have a Dyna. And in all cases, these were all twin cam 88s. They were all probably bought for $3,500 or change, you know, in that range. And they've had 1 trip to Lowbrow Customs parts catalog. So they're personalized, you know, so they're no longer just a factory Dyna.
I think some people buy parts from there just to get the sticker to put on their bike.
That's true too. You know, you get a free sticker. You bought $3,000 worth of shit, showed up in boxes. Free sticker.
But people love that.
Lowbrow guys are fantastic. They do a really good job.
I put a not me, I'm saying the guy, you know, he puts a custom like shorty fender on the front. It's a custom bike.
Oh yeah.
That's all it took.
Well, I mean,
you know, fender.
Look at Jesse James, this 1-ton hoe. Jesse James made more money on 1-ton hoe fenders and like the ditch digger or like various different fenders. He probably made more money on those fenders, which he licensed out to everybody's shop to build.
Yep.
So many, many, many sheet metal shops were stamping out 1-ton hoe fenders that, you know, Jesse's putting his name on.
You know, he popped into my feed today when I was once again rendering. So I was fucking looking at all this shit. And it's him in his Austin Speed Shop. And he made a fender from scratch. Like this with a piece of sheet metal.
Right.
I mean, as much as he's kind of a douche in some ways, his talent is fucking ridiculous with metal forming.
Good
man.
for him. Yeah,
it's really. I mean, it was cool to see. Like
the whole idea is that he got the show because he was doing something cool.
Yeah,
and then it just got ridiculous, and he started like building, a Chevy Blazer into a garbage truck.
Anytime Hollywood gets involved, it's gonna
and that's true. It's like it's that whole thing is like, can you do this? And then somebody goes, should you do it? And they go, no, shut up. Can you do this?
Yeah.
They're like, well, fuck, man. Oh, people will watch that shit. Yeah, it turns out a lot of people watch that shit.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that had like a 7-year-old IQ. You know, a lot of people that were like, I'm going to buy all the figures of all the cars and all the toy cars of all the different Jesse James vehicles. Merchandising. So,
that's what it is.
That's what it is. The plot doesn't have to be good if it can sell.
I mean, at least I watched a lot of that stuff, Orange County Chapter and everything, just because I wanted to watch something about motorcycles. It was a motorcycle show.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
it wasn't like necessarily that I really liked the motorcycles themselves. It was just like,
when I traveled for work a lot, like last year and stuff like that. We'd work from 5 in the morning until about 5 p.m. and then we'd have here's your hotel room, go fuck off.
Right.
And that was my favorite thing is like, I don't have cable at home. So I'd pop on all the hot rod shows and all that and counting cars. And I'd just sit there fucking with beer and watch these shows in the fucking hotel room. It was great.
Yeah. I have Cycle World TV now. Except it's just reruns.
It's reruns of everything.
I thought it was going to be so cool.
Yeah.
And now it's like, it's just it's all in a loop. It's just
they have basically 11 shows and they just run them constantly.
Well, that's what he sent that in the text one day, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I have it, and I did.
Everybody has it. Yeah.
And then it was like they're all 5-minute shows from 1917.
Exactly.
Or something. Yeah. I was like, damn it, man.
They do dyno runs and stuff on some stuff, which is kind of cool. But it's but if you watch it at the same time every day, you're going to see the same thing. It's
the same thing every day
on loop.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's all I got, man.
I think that's it too.
We'll see you guys next week. Ride fast and take chances. Bum, 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 bum. They got to press the red button. It's red.
There's no harmony today. Where's the harmony?
Oh, yeah.